trips are felt beyond words. No one connects you to the Caribbean like Princess. Princess Cruises, sailing the Caribbean. Book now.
What an evening we have ahead of us. The first of 4 two-hour races to end off the Porsche Club America Sim Racing Series 15. Starting with the Pro Class here from Daytona tonight. It is a big finale in terms of this championship with 3 contenders who will be fighting it out for that crown in season 15 over the course of these 2 hours. As I say, going to be a very exciting round of this championship because of that, but also because this is twice as long, twice as difficult, twice as challenging for absolutely everybody participating here tonight in the final round of the championship, of which, by the way, there are nearly 30 in the field currently in qualifying. My name's Ewan O'Leary. I'll be alongside David Haynes in the commentary box here tonight with Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras of this RaceSpotTV broadcast here tonight. We've come a long way through the schedule, through January, all the way back at the start of this season at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez on the 7th of January. That was where we started it all out, and over 16 weeks later, rather, I should say, over 4 months later, we arrive at Daytona for the final round of this championship, and indeed a 2-hour race as well to round it off as well. Come off the back of some pretty tight racetracks as well, I've got to say, in the last 4 rounds. Long Beach, Horton Park, Suzuka and Road Atlanta, a real lead into Daytona that is not like this racetrack, although not many places are. Let's just show you where we are in terms of the championship standings as well before we get to the end of qualifying. David Mendonca leading by 30 points only in front of Bryce Rodriguez. That means whoever wins tonight, if either of them do win, then they will be champion. Thomas Briggs can win the championship from 100 points back there, but he does need some things to go his way, including David Mendonca finishing outside of the top 5 and Bryce Rodriguez finishing off of the podium. He needs both of those things to happen, and indeed to have a very good race himself. Blake Townend is not too far away, but looks like has shored up 4th place in this season. Christopher Pye is running up the top 5. Thomas Isabel, Arthur Chang, then Robbie Prescott, Jonathan Waltman and Chris Braun round out the top 10 in these championship standings. The highlighted Super Pro drivers there, by the way. Bryce Rodriguez leading those. Mendonca is the Pro Class champion already. Can he be the overall champion here this season? As I say, alongside me is David Haynes for this 2-hour extravaganza to round off our season, the finale. Good evening, David. Good to have you alongside. It is going to be different to all the other rounds so far, this one, not least because it is Daytona, and as I say, we're coming off the back of 4 rounds of very different racetracks to this one. But the fact this is going to be a 2-hour race with 70% limit on fuel means there's going to be a discussion about how many stops there's going to be, about whether it will be 2 or 3, indeed whether you take tyres at those pit stops and how many you take tyres at, if indeed that is going to be the call, and just how you can stay up towards the front right to the end in what's surely going to be, especially early on, a very slipstream heavy race.
Yeah, g'day Ewan. Daytona on the road course is always super tactical, but the visual of the racetrack is spectacular as well. Racing on the banking, the Ferris wheel, the chairplanes, the massive grandstand. It's the world center of racing. It makes your hair stand on end, but it also creates some of the most historic moments in sports car racing.
Yeah, indeed. Could be a few more here tonight, that's for sure. Qualifying just drawing to a close. We'll see the pole lap of Bryce Rodriguez in a moment. The reigning champion has taken pole by only 31 thousandths of a second. David Mendonca in second, Thomas Briggs in third. The top three in the championship are the top three in this qualifying session, albeit in a slightly different order heading into the race. Very close across the board, though. The top 19 are covered by less than a second. All 28 drivers who set a time covered by less than 1.4 seconds. That is pretty impressive across the board. As we end qualifying and get in towards warm-up, we'll ride on board in a moment with Bryce Rodriguez and talk you through a qualifying lap around here at Daytona in just a second as they all make their way back out onto the racetrack again. Qualifying, as always, in this series is a solo session, and so warm up a chance to get accustomed to having others around you. And it looks like those two need a bit more practice as they nearly hit each other and crash into one another coming out of the pit lane here. Pretty tight pit lane, which, as I say, they could be traversing 2 or 3 times this race. We'll wait and see just how many. Let's ride on board with Bryce Rodriguez, though, as we take in the pole lap here, a 1 minute 43.1. As we come down in towards turn number 1. Big speed coming in towards here in a difficult braking zone, transitioning from the banking onto turn 1. Little bit late there, but he pulls it back with a late apex, which will surely give him a good run through the completely flat out chicane one way and then the other. Down on the brakes towards turn 3, again missing the apex slightly. Pulls it back for a late apex, maybe not missing the apex indeed, just going for that as a bit of a strategy to get the run onto the next straight, or indeed flat out section, of which there are quite a few. Through the kink at turn 4 and then down into the West Horseshoe now for Bryce Rodriguez. He can't go wide there, so he does grab the early apex, although this hairpin does just extend on for a little bit longer, of course. Then you get in towards another tight turn. Turn 6, you've got to open out, and there you do need that late apex and that good run onto the banking, which puts you all the way round to the bus stop chicane. And this is where this racetrack makes its name. Most rivals are not very interesting, to be honest, and very limited in the way that they can be used. Well, you might be able to level the same thing at Daytona, but this is where the action happens, all on the super speedway banking. Look at that, interestingly as well. Short line coming through NASCAR turns 1 and 2, and then onto the backstretch before he pulls out to the racing line. The new curbs with the extra runoff, but the very difficult vault over those curves. Stays on the apron just a little bit longer before those cones getting absolutely everything out of this racetrack before picking up an off track, which, by the way, are going to be a discussion point of their own that we'll have in a few moments' time. He comes up towards the line there, Bryce Rodriguez, and he will set that 1 minute 43.1 to take the pole. I think the most notable thing from that, David, is what we saw at the end, really. Getting the absolute maximum out of this, even on the banking, coming off of NASCAR turns 1 and 2, and towards turns 3 as well, looking to shorten the distance, and that can't be worth more than a few thousandths of a second, but it shows you how important he sees those, and I guess in a session that was separated by only 300ths, it does make sense as to why he was searching for absolutely everything there.
You and I chuckled out loud so hard that I had to double check I was still on push to talk and the voice activation hadn't sent it through. It's a unique but legal line there, and it is a complete optimization to get out of that Le Mans chicane and the longest full throttle blast on the racetrack, the highest speeds around onto the front stretch, and the start finish line there. So yeah, absolutely trying to maximize every little teeny tiny bit. But yeah, it was a good lap. It was a good lap. Very, very confident in the rotation of the car, as you pointed out, to go quite deep into the slower corners, but always bring it back to a late apex that lets you slam open the throttle and unleash the power in a straight line into the next sequence.
It's going to be so important here from Daytona. So Bryce Rodriguez has taken the pole with a 143.1, but the others are close behind. David Mendonca second alongside with Thomas Briggs and Justin Tipton on row 2. Then Blake Townend and Justin Sang, who share row 3. Peter Moller and Ed Eisenring, the first all-pro row 4. Thomas Isabel and then Robbie Prescott rounding out the top 10. Matthew Siddle and Sylvester Canny then on row 6. front of Arthur Chan, who's 13th, and then Rodney Campbell. Julian Jones and Saji Zuhair then on row 8 in front of Christopher Cook and Chris Braun, who finds himself a little bit further down than normal. Christopher Pies has not qualified so well, but he does often race his way in to a good position. He's now in the top 5 in the points, of course, and would like to keep it that way. Chad Henson rounds out the top 20 with James Huth and John Gibson on row 11. Leif Peterson and Michael Patterson then on row 12. Jason Ryan and Andrew Serger next ahead of Enrique Gregorato and Mike Kodowski. Julian Velez didn't set a time, although that's becoming a bit of a theme, I must say. Hopefully he does race in a few moments' time, because the race session is coming up. A couple of more things to note, just to outline a little bit more clearly before we get going for the hour-long race, or indeed the 2-hour-long race. That's the first thing to note. It is twice as long as normal here at Daytona for the finale, so that's the first thing to note. However, not changing is the incident points before you get a disqualification. No drive-throughs in this series for incident limits, but only a disqualification at 25 incident points. That's not been extended from the regular season to this round. You've just got to be twice as careful as what we've seen so far. One faster pair at 70% of fuel of normal of these Porsche GT3s. That will mean it's going to be right on the edge as to doing 2 stops or 3. And indeed, within 3 stops, you've got a bit of a debate there as to whether you want to do sort of 3 evenly spread stops or 2 full tanks and a splash. But that's where the real interest, I think, David, is going to come from this. Maybe not early on, because it could be a bit follow the leader and a bit fuel-saving heavy. But when we get later on and we know who's going to be where, Thomas Briggs has stuck on a moustache this week, by the looks of things. So
is that a new livery for... Is that a new livery for tonight as well for him? Because I think I can pick up the theme here. I think he's doing it for Dale.
I see. Right. Very good. Very good. No, that is a new livery. Well spotted. And there's Arthur Chan, who put himself on fire a fortnight ago because the track temperature was up at about 140, 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Thankfully, it's about half that today. And he's not on fire, instead giving us a bit of a different view, a more open view as to what... he can see in front of him in that triple screen. 23 degrees Celsius on the racetrack, just 73 Fahrenheit. Yeah, as I say, 2 stops or 3 stops, going to be interesting, but as I say, it could be quite fuel-saving heavy early on. Depends really how they take the early laps, really.
Well, I think then the pit stop times are going to be very interesting to watch when they come around to that first stop. Does everyone have the same stop time, all filling up to that 70% fuel cap? Or are there a few that go a little bit short, try to jump the pack, try to form their own group and more evenly split it? Or are we all massively fuel saving, filling the tank at every opportunity and hoping that we get to the end on 2 stops? I think a lot of the hand gets played at the first stop to let us know if it's 2 or 3.
Yeah, we'll try and keep you across everything as we go through this race. But for now, it's going to be about the race towards turn 1. And the championship, of course, played out between those names on the front row. Bryce Rodriguez on your right, David Mendonca on our left, the right-hand side of the road. Mendonca leading the championship by 30 points coming in. The gap between a first and a second place finish, exactly 30 points as well. 2 hours of racing to end the PCA season in the Pro Class. Green flag waves in Florida, and we're underway at Daytona. In towards turn 1, it's pretty even for the front row as both react well, but it's a stack up behind as Mendonca breaks late. He's on the outside line and he's got some followers as well there, although it looks like Tipton and Briggs are going to have their own fight in that second group, and there goes Briggs into 3rd place. Tipton shuffled back to 4th. The top 3 in the championship are the top 3 in this race in the right order as well. As Briggs goes wide, he then will slip behind. He got into 3rd so briefly before Justin Tipton slips back in front again.
From the International Horseshoe through the dogleg to the Western Horseshoe, tyre temperature coming up for everyone, and the battle is on for that podium spot. It's getting real scruffy through there. Briggs gets back into 3rd.
And he's gone. Tipton's gone. Is he just clipped the curb on the outside? Might have been a bit of dirt there as well. He was side by side with Briggs, who just slipped through on the inside. It was aggressive, but Briggs made the pass, as far as I could see, cleanly. And a dip of the wheel onto the dirt on the outside for Tipton just spun him around. He's given himself the most amount of time to recover, but my goodness, he's put himself a long way back in this field.
Now the speeds increase, the slipstream game can be played. and how early do you roll out of the throttle going into these corners at the end of the long straights, like going into Le Mans chicane and going into turn 1.
As that move down the inside from Briggs, it does give a little bit of a nudge, but I think the actual spin itself is created by Tipton, really. You know, as I say, there was a little bit of a touch, but I felt that touch was quite a long time before the spin, really, and it's a shame to lose Tipton like that because we lost him very early at Road Atlanta after a great qualifying as well a fortnight ago. But unfortunately, you've got to be careful getting on the power coming out of these horseshoes, as important as it is. Unfortunately, he's gone for a spin getting on the power through there, and he drops out. And what he's actually done, it looks like he's created a gap for the front three to run away as well.
So slipstream range usually goes to about 1 or 1.5 seconds off the car in front. So if you see a 2-second gap on the timing, you're probably out of the slipstream. But if you're within 1 or 1.2, there will be a gain to be had with the really high speeds here, the long full throttle blasts on the speedway banking.
Briggs is driving like someone who has got to be aggressive to win a title, and that's because he is
like an
in
intimidator, maybe?
Position. Sorry, go ahead.
Would you suggest he might be driving like an intimidator?
Well, very good. Very good. I'd imagine it's quite intimidating for Bryce Rodriguez, that's for sure. To remind you, Briggs 100 points behind Mendonca and 70 behind Rodriguez. If you don't know about the point system in this series, that might seem like a very long way, but there's 100 between first and sixth in this series. So in reality, it isn't. But the problem, I think, for Briggs is that he's actually created a gap to the rest of the field here by getting the front three away, but he does need those others to finish ahead of the likes of Mendonca and Rodriguez, or he isn't going to win this championship. But as I say, he is driving like someone who's got nothing to lose in this championship, and that will be scaring the likes of Rodriguez and Mendonca a little bit, who've got a whole lot more to lose.
Rodriguez immediately fuel managing into the Le Mans chicane there. It almost caught out Briggs, who wasn't looking to lift and coast as much as Rodriguez did. It opened up a little bit of a gap to Mendonca there, but then shrinks, and I think Rodriguez manages again into turn 1. So this looks like Rodriguez saving Mendonca and Briggs, less so for everyone else. You can think about saving once you've caught the slipstream. You've got to try to go with the leaders in this stage, hook the slipstream, and then save.
Yeah, I agree. Like Townend is the one who is doing that connecting at the moment, and he is getting there. He's closer than he was this time last lap anyway, in 4th place. He's also 4th in the standings as well, so the top 4 indeed, as they are in the standings. And there are the live points. Their gaps are only being extended, their positions only being consolidated in this current position. Thomas Isabel, though, is dropping down. Oh, and he's lost his rear wing as well. It's an incident into the West Horseshoe. I think he was side by side with somebody on the way in. We'll have another look, but for the moment, look at this. Chad Henson goes down the inside. Here's John Gibson as well. They're all battling past, and let's hope that Isabel actually realises that he doesn't have a rear wing at the moment, because that could be quite catastrophic, rather, coming into the bus stop chicane.
Oh, but how much straight line speed is he going to have? Maybe this is the real strategy now, unfortunately. It seems like he does have a bit of damage, having gone, I think, backwards into the tyre barrier.
He must have done. And he was 5th in the standings, as we briefly saw on the live standings there on the top right. He was there ahead of Pies, but now no longer. Robbie Prescott, only 10 points behind Christopher Pies coming in today. There's quite a fight for 5th going on in the standings, by the way. We'll try and keep across it as we follow the leaders again. Mendonca is getting away from Rodriguez, who, if early evidence is to be believed, is fuel saving here, whereas Mendonca and Briggs are not. Now, that might look like Rodriguez is slowing himself into a worse and worse position here at this stage, but he might look very smart later on when he has to make one less pit stop. I wonder whether Briggs has changed tack, though, because he doesn't look quite so aggressive either at the moment.
So a bad run over that last high curve in the Le Mans chicane causes some incident, and making an unnecessary pit stop is really costly here as we take a look at where Isabel lost the rear wing. Oh, it was gone from the car-to-car contact before he found the wall. The pit loss is significant here, and then you have to stay on the pit limiter all the way around the inside of turn 1. You don't get released until you're pointing towards the international horseshoe. So it's a long time on the limiter, whereas out on track, you're doing easily up to 300 kilometers an hour. The difference between being in the lane and being on the track is massive. So the time loss for a third pit stop, even if it's just for a little splash of fuel, is big.
Yeah, indeed. So it's no longer the world where you can where you're only on the pit limiter for the oval pits, I'm going to call it. They do use the same pit lane, but as I say, you do have to go around the first turn as well nowadays. But even so, it's a long time down there. Now then, Briggs is pushing Rodriguez instead of trying to go past him. Or is he going to push him for now and then go past him in towards turn number 1? He's looking left and right, but no, he isn't going for it. And this is giving Mendonca an ever larger advantage. So I do wonder whether Thomas Briggs has changed strategy halfway through here and decided, well, I'm not going to catch Mendonca anyway now. Even if I do pass Rodriguez, I'm not going to be in his slipstream. So let's join Rodriguez on this fuel-saving strategy. And there is a bit of a train forming now behind second place.
Rodriguez is the salt and Briggs is the pepper, and they are going to push it. That's a classic super speedway strategy, and this is as close as road course racing gets to super speedway strategy when we come to tracks like here or even Road America sometimes. Circuits with really long straights, a lot of time at full throttle.
It's less the case around the world in GT3s, but certainly in other cars you see it, road course racing, those other places like Road America and so on. I mean, if the car's slow enough, Road Atlanta could come a bit like that. But car does have to be pretty slow. It's a pretty small racetrack for these, as we saw in the last couple of weeks. On board with Rodney Campbell further back in the pack, because you could argue he's the last driver in this group, headed by Bryce Rodriguez for second position. There's no gaps more than a second in between the intervals between Campbell and Rodriguez. And to be fair, behind Campbell is Julian Jones, who's just teetering on a second behind Campbell, riding on board with at the moment. So it is, you could argue, one large train from second place here as they cross the line again. 2.4 seconds now the gap to David Mendonca, who last time round set a 44.0. Rodriguez leading the charge, 44.7. That is not a small difference. There are some big differences in terms of time and therefore surely fuel being burnt as well.
Yeah, so at an estimate, I think the pit lane transit loss is about 30 seconds here. So it's a big amount to make out on the track, even in a 2-hour race. The way that Mendonca's going, though, in 10 minutes, putting 3 seconds into the rest of the field, at a certain point, if you're fast enough, just be fast. But there's certainly lots of other drivers thinking strategically about all of this.
There's also the added complication of Mendonca finding traffic later. I mean, this stint is fine because he can lead this race and he's unlikely to catch anybody to lap them. Gregorato, who had that big crash and will have no doubt taken his faster pair now, is still way over 30 seconds in front of Mendonca. So he's not likely to encounter any lap traffic, but Mendonca's going to catch people for position a bit later on, and it feels to me like that's where the crucial points of the race are going to be, because as you say, 3 seconds in 10 minutes, at that rate he would be leading again with 20 minutes to spare. That's not going to be particularly close, but there are more complications to come yet for Mendonca.
There's a few drivers that have salmoned their way up the field at this stage. Christopher Pies is up 5 spots inside of your top 10. Sylvester Carney is up 3, which is the most positions gained of anyone. The question becomes, is it because they're really flying, or is it because they're not playing a fuel-saving game when a lot of the other drivers around them are?
We could get some answers in the next few moments, because some of them are starting to get in this group that is definitely fuel-saving, or we're pretty sure they are anyway. Bryce Rodriguez heading it. Sylvester Carney not far away from being properly in amongst that now. Christopher Pies up 5 is sort of head of the next group, if you like, but he had a bad qualifying, so has no other choice really than to start trying to make some overtakes early on in this race. as they all come down into the West Horseshoe. As I said earlier, this first part of the race could be a little bit follow the leader with a lot of fuel strategy involved, but it is going to break apart a little bit later on. It's going to be very, very interesting to see just how far Mendonca goes anyway, but there's a definite split here in the championship contenders. And to be honest, if you're Mendonca in this position, you're only 30 points ahead of Bryce Rodriguez going into the final round of the season. I do think it's a bit of a risk that he's taking as the championship leader to go out on a different strategy to everybody else like this and hope that it comes off.
We'll keep an eye on sort of what the lap time differences looks like, but certainly Rodriguez, it was obvious he was going for some fuel saving. It's obvious that Briggs is trying to stay behind Rodriguez here as well as it comes to, you know, coasting into some of the braking zones, pushing him along in the straight lines. So we're seeing clear signs from both of them that there's an aspect of fuel management that they're considering, and it's brought this pack that you see racing past the camera into turn one altogether a pretty condensed top 10 spots or so, except for Mendonca, who is out of here and about 8/10 quicker on this lap just completed, 7/10 the one before that.
As jockeying for position behind, and Eisenring and Peter Moller end up in contact. Now, the evidence of their liveries would suggest they're definitely teammates. I need to verify that 100%, but I can take a good guess. That was a bit aggressive between the two. Side-to-side contact. But Ed Eisenring now ahead of Peter Moller. I think it was Eisenring who was side-by-side with Isabel earlier. Thomas Isabel, who ended up in the wall and backwards earlier. Still has... has made the pit stop, but only just now. So all the way down in 28th position now, Thomas Isabel, having made his first unscheduled pit stop of the day. But with an hour 45 still to go, there's a long time to recover. There is Isabel with the rear wing back on again. So having only just made the pit stop, clearly did give it a go with the no rear wing strategy, but clearly not quite as fast as reattaching it, which they have now done.
So you think you need to get to an hour 20 to go before making the first stop if you're going to make this comfortably on 2. If you pit before the first 40 minutes of the race has elapsed, you might be committing yourself to a 3-stop strategy. The leader does a minute 44 flat. Rodriguez does a 44.5. So they've picked this up just a tiny bit. Second, third and fourth here. Not letting Mendonca get quite as far away, but he is lap after lap for the last 4 laps in a row, somewhere between half a second to 8/10 quicker.
Yes. And it's remarkably consistent actually from Mendonca out front. And to be fair, from these guys as well, although in my head it's easier to stay consistent when you're slightly fuel saving like that, but maybe it isn't really. Mendonca, though, certainly it is hard to stay so consistent and so quick, but that's what he's done. He's not quite out of sight yet. It's very difficult to get out of sight around here, obviously, but he is not far away from just getting around the corners here in a few places. 5.5 seconds now. Briggs still looking so threatening. I do hope he gets on the podium, because it's going to be so fascinating, I think, to chat to him about what his strategy was at the beginning here compared to how it developed through the day. I think he wanted to go with Mendonca given the choice, but as soon as that gap got to more than a second, he thought, well, this decision's been made for me, and I'm better off staying behind Bryce Rodriguez here. And I don't blame him for that at all. I think a lot of these guys in this group, 11 guys in this group now, are seeing safety in numbers, thinking, well, Bryce Rodriguez is on this strategy. We're following him. It's easier for us to fuel saving than it even is for him. So they must feel a bit of safety in numbers, some of these guys who came in maybe a bit unsure as to whether it was going to be a 2 or 3 stop today.
Delta Airlines 737 coming into land at Daytona Beach Airport, just in the back of shot there. Probably, now I think approach speed for a 737 will be slower than what these Porsches are doing down the front straight. Approach speed for a 737 should be what, about 120 knots, about 230 kilometers an hour. I'd say a Porsche GT3R is quicker.
I think it probably is at that speed, yeah. You do get some amazing shots of that in the background here when a race is going on. See a long way around here, of course, Florida being cyclone.
Well, hopefully just Isabel's not our captain, because the wing fell off that one.
Yes,
you need
indeed.
the wings to stay attached.
Not get on that plane. Victor Moller goes wide, and after side-by-side with Ed Eisenring, he's arrowed to slot in behind Robbie Prescott and Sylvester Canny. I mean, I can't understand quite what these guys are doing at the moment, especially Eisenring and Moller there. Can't seem to stop fighting with one another, and you know, on the one hand, I'm almost surprised there isn't more jockeying for position further back here, because some of them are so far off the leaders that actually they might be able to get up the field here and not cost themselves too much time. Thinking of guys like Arthur Chan, especially, who I think has probably got more speed than being just outside the top 10. However, also some of the fights do seem a little bit nonsensical. I mean, as I say, Eisenring and Moller look like teammates. They probably are, but they're not behaving like it much at the moment.
Something at Daytona gets into your blood, and you just want to, you know, open up the third lane, hug the apron, you know, try to get a three-car push going. It accelerates your heart rate just racing here.
It certainly does. That's the shot from the air, as we've got our first black flag, and that will be stewards imposed, by the way. There is no there's no black flag for incidents in this series, as I mentioned before. That was contact with Eisenring and Justin Sang, who's managed to keep himself quiet in this group so far, in 5th position, but that was a bit of contact. Ed Eisenring had a look down the inside. Robbie Prescott, Sylvester Canny, very, very close in attendance, but eventually they stay single file. It is, I'm getting the feeling, a restless group, and becoming more and more restless as well as this race goes on.
Restless hearts weigh the most. Onto the banking, out of that turn 6. Weird corner that it is. It's very tight initially, then it sort of opens up, and then you kick the banking right at the exit, and it can sort of straighten you up a little bit. Then you're flowing along what speedways 1 and 2. You straighten up, you're looking for your braking marker for this chicane, getting that rotation and that change of direction in the middle of the sequence of corners, and always thinking about the exit, because then you're exiting the Le Mans chicane, you know, north of 120 miles an hour, and carrying that speed all the way along the next bank section up to the grandstand, the start-finish straight and around towards turn 1.
Still second to 12th. 11 drivers in this group. There's Justin Tipton, by the way, serving his penalty down on pit lane. Canny goes for a move on Robbie Prescott now, and that was seamless. Prescott may have seen that coming and thought, well, I might just back out the way for this anyway. And there has indeed been that change for 7th place. Anything doing in towards the International Horseshoe doesn't look like it this time around, but I mean, look how close they all are. 20 minutes gone. Feel too much like a field-saving race for some of these guys. As again, there's another dive, or another look rather. Sang having a look at Townend, and I think Canny was having a go at Ed Eisenring there as well. He's now switching sides, goes to the inside for turn 6. Eisenring forced to cover off. They are jockeying for position here behind the front 3 or 4 who are happy to be there. The guys further back want to get a little bit further towards the front.
Yeah, Carney now up 5 spots into that 7th position we're looking at right now. So ticking a few off as we go, working our way kind of up towards the front of this pack before we will get to a pit stop phase in a little bit. 20 minutes into this race, some of these drivers are going to go another 20 until their first stop. Cool weather in the air and on track should be preserving their tyres, and also the long straights here help you with your tyres a little bit. You don't spend that much time with them fully laterally loaded.
No. Oh, stop in the background. So not everyone's fuel saving here. Clearly, Rodney Campbell has decided to kick things off. Well, we know how many stops he's going to make then. at least 3. As you point out, this race with a 2-stop split into 3 stints would be 40 minutes a time. We're only just over halfway there, so that is a definite 3-stop strategy. But Campbell spent the first part of this race stuck in behind these guys, so that's quite the right call. I think if you're stuck in this group now, you might as well lie in it, because you've already lost the time up to David Mendonca. And again, it is just him on his own. So Sylvester Canny goes down the inside, bounding down the inside of Eisenring, and he accidentally makes contact with Justin Sang, who's now side by side with him. Now they're in a bit of danger here of losing the group, although they should get it back with the fuel saving happening. Eisenring holds on from Robbie Prescott on the outside. Still there, Sylvester Canny trying to get past Justin Sang, but the outside line through this banking isn't going to work.
No, unless you've got a slipstream up high, you're just taking the long way and you're out of the tow, so he has to drop back in behind.
He does eventually into the bus stop as well. I mentioned that they'll be fearful of losing that front group. It doesn't really look like it, and to be fair, when you know that the guys in front of you are fuel saving, it does give you a bit of a license to go on and fight, and that's what looks like what we're seeing more and more of further down the field.
It's important for Sang to push on hard now to try to make sure he stays with Rodriguez, Briggs and Townend. Looks like he will.
Just about.
Pedrowski's had a problem. Oh, this could be the Le Mans chicane once more. These new curbs are really nasty.
Yes. Oh, it's on the way in this time. Well, I might argue that could have happened in the previous layout too, but in any case, those curbs have definitely changed and made it more difficult. And that's 2 now, Gregorito and Pedrowski, who have both found the wall there and found themselves needing to use their faster pair side by side. Oh, Canny loose as well on the dogleg. Stays in front of Eisenring, who doesn't give up. Still on the inside. And Canny will run around the outside to stay in 6th place again. Again, they can't be getting much fuel saving done here. Let's hope that they've already done the fuel saving that they require, because this is just costing them a lot here for very little gain, really. Track position, yes, and being a bit closer to the front of the group, but this is getting quite busy and quite intense fighting, really, for what, as I say, is probably a small gain, really.
The first stint's always the best stint for fuel saving when you've got a pack like this. Once we get through the first stop, then the pack fractures a little bit more, and then by the final stint of the race, you might be all on your lonesome, or sort of only 2 or 3 cars together, and it becomes more challenging to save fuel the deeper into this race we go. So you want to, if you're trying to hit a number, you want to get ahead of it rather than be behind it and still chasing it in the back half of this race.
Yeah, based on what Arthur Chan was telling me, by the way, earlier on in the week, it's going to be quite hard to maintain anyway. So you do need to, and Arthur Chan does come in now, so he's not going to, as I say, he was telling me just how difficult it would be to make it work on 2 stops. I guess so difficult, he's decided not to bother doing it. 3 stops is going to be his call, and he stays on the ground, you'd expect so, after only 25 minutes in this race. I do wonder about tyres here today, when we're going to see them. You want at least one of your stops to be long enough to change all 4 tyres, but I think only 1 tyre change is probably what they can get away with here for 2 hours.
Yeah, it's a bit over 20 seconds to change all 4 tyres as well, isn't it? So if you're only taking on board 10 or 15 litres, that's not enough time to change the set of tyres without it being an additional penalty. So you'll have at least 1 stop in this race where you're going from a completely empty tank to taking the 70% that you can, and in that stop, probably enough time that you go and take a new set of tyres. But if you're making some splashes or some half fills at some point, then that doesn't cover off being able to also get tyres. So that's why we haven't seen that happen to Chan. Just 25 minutes into the race, probably not enough room in the tank to take enough fuel to pair with a set of tyres. That's my favourite food and beverage combination, fuel and tyres.
Yes, indeed. 20, I guess
so
25. Sorry, go on.
Fuel pairing for this rubber?
Yes. 25 seconds I was going to say is probably a full fuel here from bottom to top here with 70% limits. Sang just has a look on brakes. He got past Townend last time, and the 3 wide in the background now. This is why it's dangerous to just slip further back in the group. Townend experiencing it now as he's shuffled back by, or attempted to be shuffled back by Eisenring and Sylvester Canny as well. But they will get it sorted out into the International Horseshoe. Although he goes wide again, Townend, and that's a gift to Ed Eisenring, who now moves into the top 5.
Well, it's all suddenly getting a little bit more argy-bargy, isn't it?
Well, isn't it just Canny again into the West Horseshoe? I mean, this has got disaster written all over it, if you ask me, but...
I think it's what's led a few of those other drivers to come and pit when they had, is they sort of looked at the scuffling in the pack and gone, I think I can undercut this.
Yes. Or at least I'd rather not be a part of this when it goes wrong. Rodney Campbell took a slightly shorter pit stop than Arthur Chan, but he is 2.5 seconds out in front of him. He's a decent candidate for running second, to be honest, when this pit stop phase all works itself out. Depends how much fuel saving he continues to do, and depends how much faffing around these lot continue to do. A lot at the moment is the answer to that. Just quickly before we get to the half-an-hour stage in this Daytona finale of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series 15, I'm delighted, of course, to tell you that Princess Cruises continue as our PCA Sim Racing title sponsor in 2026. With 17 ships sailing to 345 destinations on 7 continents, world-class cuisine inspired by the places we visit, and the friendliest crew at sea, Princess is ready to welcome you on board. And specifically for PCA members, join the Treffin at Sea 2026 Pacific Wine Country Cruise on the Grand Princess, sailing from Vancouver to Los Angeles, September 19th to 25th. Go to the website link on the screen, pca.princesspartnerships.com, or call 833-679-2188 to speak to a PCA Travel Concierge agent. That's 833-679-2188. Well, great to have them on board again in 2026. Of course, season 15 drawing to a close, but and indeed will be at a close in just 8 days' time when we're live with the Challenge class on Thursday next week to round off our series of 2-hour finales.
Good news, Ewan.
Go ahead.
Crown Princess is currently docked in Brisbane. It arrived...
Oh, good.
At 6:53 a.m. this morning, having sailed from Cairns.
David is in Brisbane at the moment. That's his way. Should probably point that out. I know that. The people may not. Yeah, there you go. Well, that's a nice cruise down there, down the east side of Australia.
Yeah, it's probably not quite as much wine as you're going to get on the one that you were just mentioning, but probably still good seafood. Yeah, good weather at the moment, as long as you can stay away from the cyclone. Beautiful.
Yes, yeah, very good weather, I can imagine, at this time of year up there. As Briggs gets close again to Bryce Rodriguez for second and pushes him on. He was doing this a bit early, he's backed off recently, but we're getting to the crucial stage, aren't we now, really? We're 10 minutes away from that 40-minute mark, which is a bit of a magic number, really, now, as far as this race is concerned. As I was saying, Arthur Chan was telling me just how challenging it is going to be to hit that mark over the course of this race, because it's quite a challenging number for 2 hours to keep to. But David Mendonca's still going here. I mean, if he pitted before half an hour, then he would be worried he'd have to make 4 stops, but that's obviously not going to happen. Mendonca can't be far away from a stop. Then we figure out where he's going to be in terms of traffic and for how long, and then we figure out just how close these guys are. They having slowed down so much, only just making it, or are they putting, are they saving more than they need right now so they can go faster later? We're going to get some answers in the next 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, big gulf of pace opening between Mendonca and the rest of the pack there. So out to 16 seconds now. A new personal best last lap from Mendonca. I'm pretty sure that'd be the new fastest lap of the race. So he is hammer and tongs for it. And the rest of the pack are going to have to hope that the strategy helps them out, and that maybe Mendonca ends up in a little bit of traffic. things to think about.
Well, it was traffic actually that helped him get to the fastest lap that time round, but it wasn't traffic that slowed him down, of course. It was Thomas Isabel who got ahead of him in the slipstream and gave him that chance to do a 43.6. That is the fastest lap of the race by a long, long way. Well, I'll say a long way, a tenth and a half. That's quite a long way in the context of this series. And he's back now to normality in the low 44s as a big slow up from Rodriguez and Briggs on the inside. Justin Sang's had enough. He goes to the outside to second. Side by side behind us, Blake Townend gets shuffled back again, showing the dangers, as I said earlier, of being shuffled back once. You can get a whole load of them down your inside, and this time it's Sylvester Canny. They fight with each other into the international horseshoe. Canny goes wide. Townend takes that 6th place back again, but the jockeying for position now does include those at the very front as well, as Justin Sang now leads this group.
Yeah, Rodriguez and Briggs are going to have to hope that Sang pushes on and that he hasn't leapt them to then immediately back them up a little bit, but it shows how much coasting was going on between Rodriguez and Briggs into turn 1. Sang just went, all right, well, if I just pull out a line and attack this corner, I'll jump the both of you massively. So that's always the trade-off to be made. You're making that kind of fuel save, but at a certain point, it would be quicker to just go flat out and take the extra stop. And we're seeing that 2 approaches play out.
Yeah, I do worry a little bit that Justin Sang has sort of got close to making it now on the 2-stop strategy and thought, actually, I'm not going to bother with this anymore and I'm going to push on a little bit. Worry a little bit that he's cost himself a lot of time and not got the fuel to show for it, but we'll see. What he is doing is stretching out the gaps in between the drivers, which means he is putting the pace on here. Be interesting to see what this lap time is, although he was, of course, all slowed in towards turn 1 by everything that was going on. What is this lap time going to be, as Mendonca is back in the 43s again? It is a 44.0, so there is your evidence. Sang is pushing on again, and I think Rodriguez is trying to stay with him, but either Sang has saved the fuel required or he has given up because he's pushing on in this second group now.
Yeah, crunch time in these next 3 or 4 laps. Of course, that magic point is an hour 20 to go, but yeah, cars that we see pitting at the end of this lap or at the end of next lap are going to be the ones to watch. Tell me Julian Velez's engine hasn't blown itself overheating, idling at a stop.
I think it has, yeah. I thought he was actually gone in the session completely, actually. But no, I think that is exactly what's happened there. Second meatball of the day. Thankfully, you get a faster pair in this series, so he can just get a new one as quick as he likes.
Did you know?
But yeah, he's blown up. Meantime, Gibson goes off through the bus stop chicane, another victim of the new curbs.
Yeah, that second curb's unsettled him, and then he's gone backwards over the 3rd and 4th curbs as he clipped the tyre barrier too. That's deeply, deeply unpleasant. Did you know that the radiators for the Porsche Carrera Cup cars are made in Slovakia?
No. Why is that?
I don't know that they are. I was in the paddock looking at parts the other year and it was like made in Slovakia. I was like, well, there you go.
Oh. It is unexpected, isn't it? Peter Mollock quite a gap in front of him there. In 8th place, there was all sorts of fighting going on. But I guess this all stems from Justin Sang putting the pace on at the front of this group now. 44.1 that time. Rodriguez sets his personal best lap time of the race with a 43.9. So I don't think this is a case of giving up. Actually, I think Justin Sang was clear on fuel first, so he started to push on. And this is the stage at which Mendonca is no longer gaining any time. So this is where our equation from earlier gets a little bit more complicated than just seeing how much time you lose in a pit stop and then sort of matching that up, or in a pit lane traversal indeed. Because Sang and Rodriguez are not going to be losing that much time for the whole 40 minutes of a stint, although they have been losing a lot of time for well over half an hour.
Leif Peterson, the most recent to pit, just exiting the lane now. You're still on the speed limiter all the way around that pit exit road and snaking around until you get to the magical green cones that tell you can release the limiter and floor it. Second and third bouncing their way through the chicane. 17 seconds behind David Mendonca, who we are expecting to pit #soon.
Yes. I mean, surprised it wasn't that lap, actually. But he's carried on again. So, I mean, he's not that far away from the 40 minutes, even pushing on. Which,
and he's done this whole stint going near enough to flat out. And he could back the pace up in the middle and third stints as well.
He's looking in a strong position. So far, I think it's worth saying. But nevertheless, very interesting indeed. Sylvester Canny is in pit lane and he does go on the jacks. So his tank, well, it might actually be near to empty, to be honest. So he has got enough to change 4 tyres. It seems that if there is the chance to change, then they will do in this race. Even maybe changing 4 tyres twice over the course of the 2 hours. You're not getting the absolute maximum out of a 4 set, but if you're coming in for fuel anyway, you might as well take 4 tyres as well, even with the cold tyre warm-up phase. Yeah, actually just a bit over 25 seconds. I was advertising earlier, close to 30 actually. So yeah, even if you're sort of near to empty, you've definitely got a time for a set of all 4 anyway.
Yeah, so now the highest running driver to have made a stop is Rodney Campbell. But then it's some longer stops from a lot of the drivers we're seeing pitting recently now, and you can tell that they almost all look like they are completely brimming that tank.
David Mendonca's in. So, yeah, just a lap or 2 short of the 40 minutes. For him, it's 2 laps short if it was the end of the race. For these guys, it's 1, but that's an oddity of the way that they're positioned at the moment and the way that they've been running so far. He pulls into the second box and he, unsurprisingly, goes up onto the jacks. So he's not going for a short fill this time around. I don't really know why he would do that. I think he will brim the tank this time round just to sort of keep his options open, really, because as you say, it might not actually take that much fuel saving to bring him back onto this 2-stop strategy, but for the moment he is doing 3.
Although it is very close, because often you need to judge these things not by the time on the clock when they enter the pit lane, but by the time on the clock when they exit the pit lane. So I wouldn't say he was 2 minutes short of 2 stops. I'd say he was a minute short of 2 stops and has all of the leeway in the remaining time to try to save some if he needs to.
The only thing I would say to that is that that doesn't hold up at the end of the race.
But that's the point. It does hold up at the end of the race.
Well, why? Because if he comes in with a minute to go in...
If you can do 40 minutes on a tank and you exit pit lane from your final stop with 40 minutes left, you'll make it. If there was 40 minutes in the clock when you came in for your final stop, you'd exit the pit lane with 39 minutes left to get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, but I don't know how I can concisely explain what I'm thinking. Anyway, we might have a bit of time in a minute to go back to that, because these guys are carrying on again at the front. Sang isn't indeed. Maybe that was why he was able to push on first. Rodriguez and Briggs waited a bit longer, and that's because they were saving more fuel. And that's a spin coming onto the banking, just to the bottom of your screen, by the way. And that was Peter Moller, who's very much been in the walls so far tonight. He goes for a spin at perhaps the most important corner on this racetrack. I think battling side by side with a whole host of other drivers, including James Hufen and Rigo Gregorato, who made some very early stops. They're definitely on a 3-stop strategy, but for the moment they find themselves amongst the leaders.
So there's just 3 drivers that haven't pitted yet: Rodriguez, Briggs and Townend. Interesting to see how much they've extended this first stint. It could pay them some benefits later on, but they really did let Mendonca get away, let drivers like Sang pass them as they were in pursuit of such aggressive early fuel saving.
It was, yeah, so aggressive. It was obvious, really, just from looking at them. Didn't need a timing screen to tell, although that bore out that nearly a second a lap slower at their worst. It's Peter Moller. Must have been on cold tyres. No, there wasn't actually contact in the end with Hoof. It was just a spin on the inside line. Getting used to the cold tyres. There might have been contact as he was already going around, but I'm not sure there was any contact to instigate the spin in of itself. And so, oh dear, that wasn't a very good rejoin. He gets back on into the race anyway and didn't hit anybody, so we get away with it. Hour 18 to go, and so 42 minutes is the stint from Bryce Rodriguez and Thomas Briggs. They don't need to do that another 2 times, but it's good that they've been able to do more fuel saving early. They can maybe go a little bit faster towards the end of this race.
And I circle back to my previous point of the race start and the first stint, and you've got these double, triple, quadruple massive packs of cars. Fuel saving is so much easier then than it is if you're just 2 drivers together, or if you're doing a stint all on your lonesome. So to extend really long in this first stint then will allow them to push pretty hard in the second and third stints, with some of those others that pitted 1 or 2 laps earlier. We'll find hitting the same fuel number as the race goes on increasingly difficult.
Very true. Mendonca reassumes the lead as expected, and Briggs jumps Rodriguez. So there's a change, but given the two are pretty much nose to tail, just the other way round, I'm sure they'll be too worried about that. Rodney Campbell moves up to second place, Arthur Chan up to third. They're on the 3-stop strategy because their pit stops were much, much shorter. Then you've got Thomas Briggs, who's at the head of the front group now, ahead of Bryce Rodriguez. Blake Townend is going to catch up to them quite quickly, as Justin Sang has had trouble here. He was in that group just behind, trying to get towards Briggs and Rodriguez, who are now fighting with their cold tyres. Blake Townend will join them, but not many of the others will do. And Justin Sang won't be one of them, as he has clearly had trouble on this lap while these two are rejoining. As you mentioned, the front group is always likely to be smaller, and indeed it has turned out to be that way, as Thomas Briggs is, well, it's a fancy dress competition at the moment, isn't it? He's got the moustache and he's put the sunglasses on now. That can't be helping, and he's got people in the background as always as well. I say this every week, David, but you'll be amazed the things that Thomas Briggs can see going on behind him or around him, and he doesn't get distracted ever. It happens every week. Never gets distracted, and I can't quite conceive how he manages it.
The only problem you're going to have wearing sunglasses is if the polarization of your sunglasses matches the polarization of your LED or LCD screen. So, like, for example, when I'm wearing my sunglasses, I can't turn my phone sideways and still see it.
I mean, I'm such a non-sunglasses wearer. I didn't really even know that was possible.
Polarized sunglasses are the best.
I think I look ridiculous. but there you go. That's an English thing, maybe. That's
or as we call them, cloudy, rainy, sad day glasses.
Yeah, dude. If you only wear them in the sun, they don't get much use. 2 days a year.
Briggs is dropping back big time here, though. Maybe he is getting distracted because he was wide through one. Rodriguez went past. He was wide again through the International Horseshoe. And he's got Townend, Eisenring, Siddall, a few of them just breathing down the back of his neck there. And he needs to stay connected with the car in front.
Certainly does. There's been more joining from behind here as well. Not just Townend now. So, yeah, this is almost returning to what it was before, really. Only with the additions of Julian Jones and James Hoof, perhaps, this time round, although they'll be on different strategies. This is what happened to Sang last lap, or the one before. Just as they were rejoining. I don't know whether he got overexcited by the sight of those two there, knowing that he was actually going to be ahead of them at that time. But either way, he dropped it out of turn one, and that's it for his race hopes.
Ouch. Perhaps a change in balance with the fuel returned and a new set of tyres, and just misread that one. So do we go back in the same fuel-saving mode, or have we seen how far we went in the first stint and thinking there's a bit more leeway to attack now?
Let's see the first lap time, shall we? Bryce Rodriguez. As they come across the line. Mendonca's in the low 44s. Rodriguez 46.8. That will still be cold tyres though, so I guess it's not quite the first representative time just yet anyway. And Ed Eisenring taking advantage of that now, or he was trying to, side by side with Townend. Oh, and he has a look down the inside there as well, and there's a little bit of contact. Goodness me, after all of that, and it looked initially like the field was quite splintered after the pit stops, we're almost exactly where we are, minus those who've, very few drivers from the front who've had a spin here.
One pit stop from everyone. Next big milestone is sort of 41 minutes to go. So for this middle stint, you're either trying to save to reach that number or trying to pull off a couple of moves and get forward in this pack.
Indeed, there looks like there's a few of them in here, for sure. Look at that, Eisenring into the bus stop chicane. Oh my goodness me! And it's a massive boat over the curves from Blake Townend. He's going to go wide of the signage and over the tyre barriers there. He's going to rejoin Matthew Siddles on his outside. Townend wants to get to the high side now. I'm sure to service slowdown, you'd have thought. But how severe is it going to be? That was bravery from Ed Eisenring, and Blake Townend's going to be furious that he went for that, coming into that Le Mans chicane, because it has cost him a whole load of places.
Yeah, that'll be a really nasty slow down, and you always want to serve it by the time you get to the next corner, the next braking zone. So if he hasn't cleared it by about now, he'll be in some trouble. Ooh. Yeah, there's your 737.
Yeah, yes. Don't want it landing at that angle.
For a brief time in the 70s and 80s, I think, the Porsche air-cooled flat 6 was available as an aircraft engine. It did not prove especially popular. Ewan, you always learn something new with me. You know this.
I do, yeah. I've learnt, quite a lot about where Porsche radiators are made. The best thing about commentating with me for you is that you can bring up the same facts and I'll still learn them because I've forgotten since the last time. Anyway, Julian Jones retains his 8th place on the inside ahead of Robbie Prescott. Then Blake Townend, he has served, he's definitely served a slowdown now, and he has retained membership of this group as well. He's actually made James Huth's life a little bit easier, actually, because he's got someone slightly closer to him as he is drafting off the back of these guys on a wildly different strategy, and it will be a 3-stop as well for Huth. He is coming to the end of lap 15 on this stint. I say wildly different strategy. I suppose Rodney Campbell is on the similar one, but quite a few seconds further up the road. It's Mendonca, Campbell and Chan on the 3 stops at the front. James Huth is as well. The rest of the top 10 look like they're doing 2-stop strategies with varying degrees of finish securing that. And Robbie Prescott has got a black flag in the meantime. He comes in to serve it straight away. He'll be out of contention now for that top 10 as well.
Side by side over the start-finish line. Inside line for turn 1 is the place to be almost always. By the time you get this far into the race, there's marbles and gunk and everything building up around the outside line, and the longer the race goes, the less of an option hanging around the outside becomes in these corners.
Oh dear, speaking of, Ed Eisenring again, this time with Thomas Briggs, and he's going to go off Eisenring, and he's off! He's into the wall hard, coming into the West Horseshoe. That's the end of Ed Eisenring's day. He's not going to contend for this race any longer, and I think a few in this front group are going to be breathing a sigh of relief about that, because he's been the animator of this group from the very beginning here. Over the last 50 minutes, he's been the one trying to make the overtakes. He's been the one making moves. And he is now the one who has found the wall and is out of contention in this race.
That's an IKEA Jungelskog monkey there in the camera shot for Thomas Briggs.
I somehow knew you'd know that. Here it is again, by the way. Eiserman on the outside, diminishing returns out there, and he finds the dirt almost like Tipton did, but at higher speed and hard into the wall. That's the end of his day.
And again, it was going around the outside of the dogleg there as well. Another place where the marbles have built up offline. And when you try to go too wide and you're around on the outside there, there's just not the grip you're expecting, and then bouncing across the curbs. No good. Of course, famously, that's the same IKEA monkey that the monkey in the zoo that was sad had as a mother.
Oh, right.
Punch the monkey had one.
Famous toy monkey as well. Well, there we go. As I say every week, it does amaze me how he doesn't get distracted, Thomas Briggs. Maybe I'm too easily distracted, but he's able to go very, very quickly while just chatting most weeks. But there you go. There he is in second behind Rodriguez. Last lap, by the way, 45.3 from Rodriguez. So the whole field is actually half a second, a few tenths slower than they were last stint. Track temperatures come up slightly. There is the monkey. Maybe they know the monkey's on camera. Half a second to sort of 3 tenths slower than normal, or slower than last time, but they're all sort of on similar gaps. So Mendonca sort of gaining in the same way that he was before. A good evening, by the way, to Justin Tipton, who's put himself in the YouTube chat now after crashing out earlier on in this race, sadly. He thinks that Mendonca has already got pretty much the strategy that he needs to win. At the moment, the gap between first and fourth, which is the one we're interested in really, is 26 seconds. If you say one trip down the pit lane costs you about 30 seconds, then yeah, you would say he is about there, but I'd say there's a lot of variables in the next hour that could go on here.
Yeah, I think by the time we get to sort of 3/4 of the way through this race, he will have built the gap that he needs across the whole race. And he really wasn't that far short on the fuel. Anyway, if you keep your mid-corner speed up, you burn less fuel. Yes, go. Monkey cam again. Absolutely spectacular work.
Yeah, indeed. Looks like they're trying to find a way to sort of sit that upright in front of the camera. For you know.
There's one of them where the palms of the monkey have Velcro, so you can stick it to stuff.
Yeah. Well, the only thing you can stick it around is George Briggs' neck. I don't think that would phase him either, but you know, I'm sure while he's driving they'll do that. Anyway, they're enjoying themselves this evening, and Thomas Briggs will be as well as he hitches a ride with Bryce Rodriguez. You do wonder what these guys can do from this, because as you say, Mendonca is not that far away from actually being able to change tack completely and feel safe to get onto the two-stop. He is a mile in front of them on actual speed right now as well. This is looking better and better for Mendonca, and to be honest, a little bit helpless for this group behind based on how this has gone so far.
Yeah, it's keeping an eye on what the pace has done. And the fastest lap of the race is a 43.6, but quite a few of them are sort of nowhere near that. They're sort of mid-high 45s sort of for this group. So the pace also isn't especially blistering at this moment. Now, I want to do my vexillology, and if we could get a shot of every single flag in the International Horseshoe, I reckon I could tell you what all of them are.
I'm sure you could, to be honest. It's quite a selection over there. Just before we prepare for that, by the way, I will just go And of course, before we get to the halfway mark, thank once again Princess Cruises, who are on board again in 2026 as the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor. With 17 ships sailing to 345 destinations on 7 continents, world-class cuisine inspired by the places we visit, and the friendliest crew at sea, Princess is ready to welcome you on board. And specifically for PCA members, join the Treffin at Sea 2026 Pacific Wine Country Cruise on the Grand Princess, sailing from Vancouver to Los Angeles, September 19th to 25th. Go to the website link on the screen, pca.princesspartnerships.com, or call 833-679-2188 to speak to a PCA travel concierge agent. That is 833-679-2188.
Rodney Campbell comes into pit lane and the car immediately goes up onto the jack. So approaching the halfway point, he's going to take 4 new tyres. He's also going to drop down the timing order as he makes his second stop. First stop was a very quick fuel-only one and gives us a better picture of where the strategy is at now, with Mendonca leading, but Bryce Rodriguez leading the group of the main challengers and the cars that we think will end up on the podium.
He's towing past Julian Jones there in this large group. But, where will Campbell fall out here, and what will the traffic situation be? That's the thing I can see tripping over Mendonca more than anything else, really. Traffic, but he's not going to spend too long in it as far as we can see at the moment. And Campbell, to be fair, isn't in too much traffic anyway, such as the closeness of this field among the 25 who are still racing. Most of them are within a minute, 22 of them. And Campbell has dropped all the way to 21st. He will soon be 22nd, as John Gibson with warm tyres will likely pass Campbell. Just over an hour to go. He's effectively given himself a normal race distance from here to the end in terms of fuel strategy. Normal races, of course, in PCA, it is just a one-stop race. But for these guys, there's more than 20 minutes until they'll make their pit stop. So it seems like for Mendonca it will be something similar as well, because he went very long first time round. See how long he can go second time round, and just whether he will be in any traffic that trips him up.
I've been looking at cruises again. I'm excited to take this one on Crown Princess in December of this year, where you get to go through the Panama Canal.
Very good. Do they often come past you in Brisbane? I'm guessing so.
Yeah, we're a good year-round kind of cruise port. So, yeah. Brisbane International Cruise Terminal is a not outrageously busy place, but it doesn't really have an off-season, I don't think.
No, well, if you can't cope with blistering weather, then go about this time of year. Or a bit later, but if you do want somewhere very, very warm, Christmas time, New Year time, that will.
Crown Princess is currently on a 28-day around Australia trip. So from Sydney, going down to Melbourne, then to Hobart, Tasmania, around to WA, around Darwin, and then it's gone to Cairns and it's come down to Brisbane. And I think it's going to go from Brisbane to Sydney and complete its 4-week complete around Australia voyage.
Well, just about nowhere else less to visit in Australia after all that. Seen all the places. Right, it's 4 weeks, I suppose. It's a lot of potential deadly animals, if I can say so.
The deadliest animal in the UK is cows in whenever that time they have that disease.
Cows can be quite dangerous at any time, to be honest with you. There goes Matthew Siddle down the inside of Briggs. Oh, close! And a spin for Siddle. There may have been the slightest bit of contact, but another driver drops out the front group through just a tiny error. You see the damage on the front left. There must have been contact either with the wall, or, well, I suppose on the front left it has to be with the wall as he spun round there. Matthew Siddle now out of the front group, and you would think after seeing all this that they'd stop to refrain from fighting and get themselves into trouble, but continually they are making moves that don't really need to be made here. And Siddle, the latest to fall afoul of this, and see just how much contact there really was. Hard to tell, but he definitely does hit the wall on the inside there.
Yeah, just the little things when you're in the right middle of the corner can upset the car. We've seen it when you're fully loaded. If you touch one of the curbs wrong, it'll get you. And if you have to try to change your line once you've already dived into the corner like that, it can be very, very upsetting. As Siddle found out with just a bit of a half spin into the inside wall.
Arthur Chan now in, just inside an hour from home. So 21 laps for him, that stint. Should mean that Mendonca's got another 8 at least. That will get him right up towards 40 minutes. Few people asking in the chat just how much traffic Mendonca's going to have. Well, he will be out there for a few laps in amongst the others, but because he's going so deep here, he's actually not getting into traffic very often. And so that is putting him into a brilliant position now. There is Chan just having a little drink, a little rest. And over 20 seconds, so more than enough time for the 4 tyres to be taken. Looks like he's going to brim it anyway this time round. And now he goes to 29.6 seconds. I would say that's maybe a little bit long. But I guess he's going for the 2 full tanks and then a splash of fuel right at the end.
Yeah, looks like it. That stop, and again just past the halfway point. I could see a strategy where you say 1 tyre change, and so you bring that first stop a little early, go fuel only, pit, brim the fuel tank, take 4 tyres just past the halfway point, and then you're left with 1 splash to go. That's if you think you can't make 2 stops, which obviously a few drivers think they can, particularly these two, Rodriguez and Briggs.
Yeah, they're the main 2, although Townend and Jones behind are on exactly the same strategy. Even Julian Jones, who wasn't even part of the front group early on in this race. Amazing the job he's done so far. A lesson in staying out of trouble, I think, to some of the others who have managed to get into half spins and whatever so far. Having said that, most of them are not that far away. And the gaps in the top 10, other than the one between first and second, don't go more than 3 seconds in the interval at any stage. So it is still very close the way down, and look at this for Briggs. So much fuel saving, but Rodriguez is doing the same. Lap times in the low 45s at the moment, but Mendonca is closer to the low 44s, and that may well be the difference. 32 seconds now the gap. I think more and more people are starting to believe, and I'm becoming one of them, that Mendonca is in an exceedingly strong position in this race now.
The moment he sort of broke about 5 or 10 seconds clear, you could see he had the pace that he could just leave them behind 2 stops, 3 stops, whatever the case may be. So that was sort of the really defining moment of the race as well in the early laps. Once he broke the slipstream to second and third.
Indeed. It happened very, very early as well in this race. Well, let's see just how long we wait until this final pit stop of the day. At least it will be for some. Will it be a final stop of the day for Mendonca? Really is what I'm waiting for, because he is pretty close. If it is, then my goodness, this is going to be a display of dominance the likes we've not seen for some time really in this series. Bryce Rodriguez has had such a stranglehold over this series for some time. He has had his fair share of pretty dominant victories, and some of them, of course, in the recent seasons as well. But this season, just 2 victories to his name. That's the same as Mendonca. He's in big, big danger of losing that number 1, the reigning champion's number, to David Mendonca a driver pretty new to the series, really. Wasn't in the top 10 in the points last season, wasn't, I don't believe, in the points at all last season. Top 10 in points last season, by the way, denoted by the purple numbers on the left-hand side. Bryce Rodriguez, premier among them this season, coming into this season, but 30 points behind coming into today. He'd lose another 30 points that it is right now. And I'm becoming more and more of the opinion of, well, I'm struggling anyway to find ways in which Mendonca can lose this now, barring complete normal catastrophes like crashing and so on. It's hard to see how this strategy can come unstuck, to be honest.
Yeah, see, strategy is what wins races when the pace is close enough between different drivers and you're looking for your little edge. But when you're as fast as David Mendonca is, whatever he did, I think he'd quick enough to put himself into a winning position in this race. If he'd stayed with the pack and heavily fuel saved in the first stint, he probably would have broken clear of them in this stint. He's broken them in the first stint, given himself this big margin where whichever strategy he goes from here, he can make work. So if he takes an extra pit stop, it'll be a very quick one, and he'll be quick enough to make up all of that gap. Or if he looks in his mirrors, sees 34 seconds, and he goes, you know what, I'll just drop 1.5 seconds of pace in these final couple of laps, save an enormous amount of fuel and cut out that stop. He can choose to do that as well. So he's got the luxury to do either at this point.
Yeah, he might be right on the point of him being quick enough to make either strategy work. The only thing I would say to that, and it's not really to do with Mendonca, is that if these guys were all going on the same strategy, then Rodriguez and Briggs would have found it much easier to stay in his slipstream if they'd have gone out hitting out as hard as he has. Seeing a couple of different opinions of people watching at home. Some people very sure that there's going to be a splash from Mendonca. Some people wavering slightly. I must say I'm wavering, but we'll see how far he can go, as I say, in the next 10 minutes or so. But yeah, my question in that case would be, why weren't the others able to go with them? But maybe it is just a speed thing, that Mendonca has the edge at this racetrack over the others. And it comes, by the way, off the back of a great run for David Mendonca. Podiums in the last 3 races of the season. This would be a streak of 4. This would be the second half of the season capped off all podiums. No other driver has done that this season. It would be his 3rd win of the season as well. That would be more than anybody else. It would be remarkable for Mendonca if he were to hold on from here. But you've got to remember, there is still 50 minutes to go and a lot that can go wrong in that, and nearly a normal PCA distance still remaining in this race.
Typical pack racing of Daytona. Behind Siddle though, with action into turn 1. You want to be on that gripped up racing line, and that's what Kenny did, is he got down the inside far enough, and Christopher Pies didn't brake too late and cut back onto the racing line as they navigated their way through turn 1. I still haven't got my international horseshoe shot, by the way.
Trying to spot the flags. There might not be a camera pointed in the right direction for us, to be honest. The best you might get is a blimp shot, where you'll have to strain a little bit to see what's going on down on the floor.
Well, you and I have it easy, so I think if our producer's working hard, it's only fair to make him work even harder.
We're just sitting here and talking. Oh, and Jones gets past Townend, though 2 of them have lost 1.5 seconds over the pairing out. Well, now it is a pairing in front of them. So what was that all about? It's a strange place to get a slowdown if it is that, but maybe. Nearly 2 seconds the gap, and just as I was saying, especially for Jones, what a great job he's been doing. Now what happened here? Not that far away from the 2 ahead, But Townend just lifts off an awful lot, and Jones goes through. I don't really know where he would have even got a slowdown through there, Townend, but it's cost them so much time.
It just looked like a fuel saving kind of lift off. Either that or Formula One in 2026. Am I right, guys?
Oh, they open that kind of worms, but there you go. Already been done. 48 minutes to go in this race, and surely the next 4 or 5 laps or so, the stops will be coming round again for Mendonca, perhaps even sooner than that. But last lap time, well, maybe this is the reason those two can no longer stay with him. Last time round, Rodriguez 44.1, Briggs 44.3. So fuel savings done for this stint, and for the last 10 minutes, like in the last stint, they're pushing on again.
Laps away from the magic 1/3 to go marker, which is critical to the strategy of the 2-stop race. Keep an eye on when Mendonca comes in, but he's got a very lovely 36-second lead right now over this duo in lockstep, as the last 3 laps show.
They're back to the 45s though.
Yeah, caught again by Jones and Townend.
Yeah, Jones wasn't slowing down.
Scotland, Sweden, Mexico, India, UK.
So Colombia and Costa Rica. Yeah.
Oh, wait, there's Poland, Finland, Ecuador. Great stuff.
They're all there.
The question, of course, is do they have the flag of the great nation of Argentina?
Yeah. I think I can see. I've gone back and paused the stream now, so I can have a look. I think that's Argentina. I think I can see Argentina next to Ireland. Or is that Ireland, or is it 2 islands maybe?
2 islands. That's an archipelago.
Yeah. One of them's Ivory Coast, maybe? I doubt that, personally. But you never know. What are those flags even supposed to represent, by the way?
I don't have access to the same technology that you have, so either send me a screenshot or we'll look back on it at some point. But I believe ahead of every Daytona 24, they put up the flags of the competing drivers.
Okay. So this will be, yeah. Whatever, from whatever year. There are the current flags, by the way. Not sure all of them are entirely accurate, but Blake Townend, I do notice sometimes does have a hint of a British accent. I'm not sure if he still lives here or not, but I'm going to speak to him.
Which is your closest cruise port in the UK? How far are you from Southampton?
I am absolutely miles away. I almost couldn't live further away from the sea in the UK. You know, whatever coastline. Never mind Southampton. And to come up to Hull.
Ships do have those.
Very good. Briggs passed by Jones, by the way, there, while we were talking about flags and stuff in towards turn 1. So, 44 minutes to go. Mendonca's still not in. And again, we wait and see if it's this. No, it isn't this time either. I mean, he is very close to being able to just do this on 2. This is just an unbelievable performance from David Mendonca. As these guys come back towards the start-finish line again. They are now pushing on the pace a little bit, but Mendonca set his fastest lap of the race, the fastest lap of the race last time round, 1 minute 43.6. As these guys come over the line, some of them still fuel saving lots. Jones isn't though, and he now goes down the inside of Bryce Rodriguez into second position in this race. So Rodriguez and Briggs are seemingly fuel saving way more than anybody else at the moment, and Julian Jones is fed up of sitting behind them, and he now moves through to second.
We had that around the first pit stop cycle, didn't we? Rodriguez and Briggs went 1 lap longer than almost everyone else, even the other drivers in the same pack. So Jones is 20 laps into the stint. Rodriguez and Briggs are 19 into their stint. Mendonca's 21 laps into the stint. So we're seeing a bit of shuffling here, and it could be not too far away from in lap from Julian Jones as well. He's pushing on Briggs and a look. Hello, where's the monkey gone?
Giving directions to people now. But we can just hear from the onboard there from Briggs just how much he is saving. As Mendonca is now finally in. 42.5 minutes to go. It would be a bit of an effort for him to make it on 2 stops from here now, but 3 stops is absolutely fine. As he comes into the pit lane, might give us a little bit of a reference as to how big the gap might be in 35 minutes time, or whenever it's going to be. When we see our final pit stop of the season, pretty much it's going to be taken on by the eventual champion, it looks like, as the leaders come back towards the start-finish line again. Julian Jones, Bryce Rodriguez, Thomas Briggs, fuel saving massively again. Jones shaping defensive as Mendonca pits for 30 seconds or so. Not sure how long we're expecting his final splash to be, but it's only going to be minimal seconds. He's not going to come out that many seconds behind these guys, so even with a 3-stop, Mendonca the absolute favourite at this stage, but here are the few moments where it could get tricky for him. As Chris Braun comes down the inside, Sassy Zuhair's going to be here as well. Chad Henson and maybe a lap car in there as well. These are the moments of traffic that could be tricky for Mendonca, but it's not going to last for very long, so I don't think there's too much to worry about for him.
It was a 22-lap stint from Mendonca, I believe, and the predictor says 25 or 24 to go. So he either pulls out a gigantic fuel save in this final 42 or 43 minutes, or Mendonca's just going to have to come in to take a tiny splash of fuel with sort of 2 laps to go. Either way, though, he wins. It's a question of does he win by a big margin or a small margin?
Yes, I think that is the only question remaining.
Puts him into this traffic for a bit, though.
Yeah, and the Braun and Zuhair have got away, but Chad Henson's right there. And he's probably done with fuel saving for this run because he's coming towards the end of a stint in a 2-stop race as well. I think Briggs has really struggled to fuel save enough in this stint here. He's struggling to stay with Julian Jones and Bryce Rodriguez, who's very overtly lifting off there towards turn up 1. Maybe these guys are going to have shorter second pit stops than we realised. They went quite past the 40-minute mark first time round. Maybe they don't need the whole 30 seconds of fuel here, and maybe that's where some of this time gain is going to be. I'm just trying to figure out where all this time has gone, really, because Mendonca is leading to such a degree that I'm scrambling to look for other answers at the moment. We'll see just how much further these guys can go, but Briggs is still struggling on fuel and can't even stay with Bryce Rodriguez and Julian Jones anymore.
The answer is this is a 70-lap race, and Mendonca seems to be about a second per lap faster than them. And it just adds up, and it adds up.
Yeah, indeed. This is Christopher Cook out the International Horseshoe. Oh dear. Oh no, we've got a rogue machine there, I'm afraid. It looks like he's got control of it back again, but for a moment I'm not sure he had very much control over where that car was going at all. Coming out the International Horseshoe. Rejoins though. without hitting anybody or anybody hitting him. So that's good news. Here comes John Gibson into a spin as well, coming out of turn 6. So it's a shame for him to lose position in that way as well. But out front, Julian Jones is coming into pit lane. Bryce Rodriguez continues on. As I suspected, he's been fuel saving lots to, goodness me, to try and go a bit further. Thomas Briggs trying to get all the slipstream he could there, briefly down onto the apron, back onto the racetrack again. And they continue on, but for how much longer and how much time is it really going to save them as well?
22 laps to go from here, and I think that's the stint that they've just done before they came in. Drivers like Julian Jones and everyone else pitting on this same lap here. So they're going to be good to load that up, get all the way to the end. And of course, these 3 drivers that have managed to eke out more fuel, yet more so even than the rest, Rodriguez, Briggs and Townend, can come to their final stop. And they're planning on being able to go flat chat to the end. And I think that's what they've built towards in their strategy, is just to have that ace in the sleeve come the final stint, rather than needing to fuel save a bit in every stint. It's like, let's really fuel save stint 1, really fuel save stint 2, get ourselves to a position where we can then sprint the final stint.
Yeah, maybe that is their idea, but when your asking rate is so difficult. I mean, David Mendonca was in the high 44s that time, but it's a little bit slower than normal. But anyway, normally he's in the low 44s, and then you think, well, to gain some of this time, mate, you've got to be even quicker than that. And that's when you're looking at sort of mid 43s, and really only Mendonca has been able to do that very fleetingly. So, no, they've got a tall order, these guys. Absolutely a tall order, but they'll give it a go, that's for sure. I mean, it's for a championship, for goodness sake. Bryce Rodriguez only 30 points behind David Mendonca coming into today. A win is, I was about to say win and you're in. That's not quite the phrase. Winner takes all, I suppose, between Rodriguez and Mendonca. If either of them win this race, then they will be champion. Thomas Briggs needs Mendonca out the top 5 and Rodriguez off the podium if he's to stand any chance at all. At the moment, that doesn't quite look like happening, but he could challenge for the race win and upset this a little bit. If he were to win, by the way, Briggs, Rodriguez would then need Mendonca to finish 4th or lower, which could be tricky. But Julian Jones has been with them for quite a lot of this race, so maybe he'll be able to help him out at some stage later. But in any case, Julian Jones is a bit further behind now with that pit stop made. Then Christopher Pies and Matthew Siddall are next. You imagine these 3 are going to find themselves in front of them as Siddall gets past Pies. I think this is a battle for 2nd and 3rd among those who've already made their last pit stop of the day.
Yep, pitted same lap.
All formed into a massive
half
group
as a
again.
question. Yep, happens like that.
Yeah, I mean, normally, even at Daytona, the group eventually splits apart, but I mean, we're 90 minutes in and it's still not happening here. So, well, it isn't now, I suppose, with only 35 minutes left, but anyway, here comes Bryce Rodriguez towards the pit lane finally now. And look at the braking from Townend. Oh, he only just got that stopped in time. And they've got to be careful not to hit each other on pit lane as well. Briggs making sure he was over on the left-hand side there early enough so that he didn't get spun round. These 3 are absolutely going to lose their lead. David Mendonca is now going to have that for the next half an hour at least. But as you say, these guys must be on a strategy to go absolutely flat to the end, and they're going to get some new tyres to do it as well.
Yeah, David Mendonca going back to the race lead now, and a question of does he still need a splash and dash to get to the end? We'll keep an eye on his pace, but he hasn't backed it off much to suggest that he's going to try to make a really super safe stint to get to the end. Tyres are done, waiting on fuel. Different ways to get moving out of the pit box as well. Briggs wins the race off the lane as Rodriguez is held long. Was he speeding on pit entry?
Well, I didn't see a black flag come up, but has Bryce Rodriguez just thrown his last chance of a title away here? He is still stationary. It has to be a black flag. I haven't seen it pop up, but it has to be. If it is, then expect this stop to be about 1:05. Oh no, 51.8. What went on there? What went on there? About twice as long as it should have been, that pit stop there. From Bryce Rodriguez, whose championship chances have surely just come to an end there. 25 seconds added. That is a really, really puzzling one.
Yeah, it doesn't check out with being long enough hold for a speeding on pit entry penalty or anything, but it also it's too long for even a full tank of fuel. 22 at Briggs moving around there as the tyres are still cold, and he puts the power down coming out of turn 6 to get out onto the speedway. We now have just the top 3 we're waiting on some stops for. So the third stop from Arthur Chan, third stop from Rodney Campbell, and is there a third stop to come from David Mendonca? It puts Thomas Briggs as the highest running car that we are guaranteed is getting to the end.
Yeah, and in terms of time gap to Mendonca, he is 36 seconds behind. So we'll see how that maths checks out. It might be closer than we think, but Rodriguez is not going to be involved in the fight for the win. So as far as the championship is concerned, Mendonca now only needs a top 5 to take this away from Thomas Briggs, or keep it away from Thomas Briggs, really. Briggs, who's also on a run of podiums himself, 2 in a row coming into tonight, having won at Suzuka and finished second at Road Atlanta. Mendonca getting the reverse of those results. And there's the gap, 35, 36 seconds. Travel through pit lane, you said 30 seconds, time loss, then a bit of fuel. If you line it up like that, then you think, well, yeah, maybe this is a bit close.
More like 33 seconds actually for the lane transit time, but the delta is always slightly less than that because obviously pit exit is further down the track than pit entry is. So yeah, 32 seconds is the cone to cone time of transit at the pit lane speed limit.
While asking in YouTube just what the different colours mean on the left-hand side, the blue is for just the general drivers, the Pro Class drivers. The purple, though, highlights those who finished in the top 10 of the previous season's standings. They're called Super Pros this season in the PCA Pro Class. The best of them, Bryce Rodriguez, in that championship coming into tonight, and that might change hands actually as well. There is a separate Super Pro championship. David Mendonca already sealing the Pro Class championship for those in the blue. And the championship overall we've been talking about is between Mendonca and Rodriguez. That's for absolutely everybody. And we'll see whether in season 16 we retain the Super Pro format again, but a new list of 10 we would get. Looks like that 10 would already be defined, with Chris Braun and Sylvester Canny, who are 10th and 11th, having 150 points between them at the start of the day, and Chris Braun having a decent day inside the top 15 right now. This isn't helpful at all. Blake Townend and Thomas Briggs going side by side into turn 1. Well, if we think they've got any chance at all, then they are rapidly putting out that fire right now themselves. What is the point of all this? A great cutback from Townend gets him side by side for the dogleg. Why doesn't one of them just admit defeat right now and say, let's get on with this and leave the fighting for later? Townend again diving down the inside, an impossibly small gap. Neither of them want to back down, and in doing so, they're shooting each other in the foot.
So it all begins, Townend down the inside of turn 1. Briggs strikes back into the international horseshoe, side by side through the dogleg, coming out onto the banking now. Townend has the head, and you can't read much into Thomas Briggs, other than the fact that maybe he's sweating a little bit underneath that fake mustache and it's affecting the adhesive.
Just trying to see what's going on behind him as well. But I cannot understand that at all. To be fair to Briggs. And Briggs now goes down the inside at the bus stop. So this is bizarre. These two, I thought had a chance at winning this race. Mendonca not that far away from being in their realm, really, with half an hour to go. At the moment, though, they are costing each other time by fighting like this. We'll see what the lap time is this time round. 44.2 from David Mendonca. Briggs and Townend should have a representative time, but they're battling again in towards turn number 1. Lap time 44.8, so they lose more than half a second. Briggs goes wide into turn 1. This is costing them so much here. Side by side through the S's even. Into the International Horseshoe, just as they were 1 lap ago. As entertaining as it is, this is costing them a chance for the race win.
I get the feeling of, last day of the last semester of the year. I think they know. I don't think either of them are unaware of the situation that this puts them in, but it's the last stint, the last race of the season, and they're just gonna scrap it out a little bit. I think you could tell from the very beginning of today that Thomas Briggs was bringing an attitude that he was going to enjoy himself, win, lose, or draw. Well, this isn't necessarily win, but it's certainly not lose, and he's having some fun.
Well, true, that is true. You see, by the way, he's comfortably gained second in the championship with Bryce Rodriguez's very long stop in the last few moments that has dropped him to 15th currently in this race. He will go to the end, unlike some ahead of him, but nevertheless, Thomas Briggs is going to get ahead of him here. Well, you just see in towards turn number 1 whether Townend is going to now stay behind Mendonca or not. Come through NASCAR turns 3 and 4. He's not that close initially. Briggs clearly fearing an attack here, but Townend not staying in the slipstream all the way down, which might be a sign that he isn't going to go for it this time round. In towards turn number 1. They stay single file with just less than half an hour to go, so maybe they've learnt their lesson, as it were. But let's wait and see as we continue on. We'll remind you one more time, and thank, of course, Princess Cruises for continuing on as the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor in 2026, with 17 ships sailing to 345 destinations on 7 continents. World-class cuisine inspired by the places we visit and the friendliest crew at sea. Princess is ready to welcome you on board. And specifically for PCA members, join the Treffin at Sea 2026 PCA Pacific Wine Country Cruise on the Grand Princess, sailing from Vancouver to Los Angeles, September 19th to 25th. Go to the website link on screen, pca.princessparkships.com, or call 833-679-2188 to speak to a PCA travel concierge agent. That's 833-679-2188. And there's your race leader. There is your champion in waiting, very possibly. David Mendonca leading at Daytona. 16 seconds, the gap to second. The gap really is 39 seconds rather. As we mentioned before, transit time through the pit lane, roughly 30 seconds. The pit stop itself having to be added into that as well. It is looking like it's going to be Mendonca's day, even with the extra pit stop. The speed he's shown looks like it is going to be enough to hold on from the rest of the field. And what about the others who are on 3 stops, by the way? Because Rodney Campbell has just come in, although his final stop will be significantly longer. In fact, it's going up towards 15-20 seconds now.
Campbell had a very quick first stop. It was only 18 seconds or so. So then he's got to make up the difference of the remaining stops, 24 seconds. He's coming out. We've had a quick look at Arthur Chan. Still needs to make 1 stop left. And the predicted race distance has jumped around a little bit. It was at 70 laps. Then we had the most recent pit cycle. Everyone stopped. And so they dropped back a little bit. It went down to a predicted 69 laps. But Mendonca hasn't eased up the pace whatsoever. And we're back up to a predicted 70 again. So a predicted 70 and Mendonca not easing the pace back, both of those are going to bring him towards needing a 2 or 3 lap splash right at the end. The time in his pocket to do so is now almost 40 seconds. Could still win this by 15 seconds easily.
Yeah, slightly fearful if we drop below 70 laps, to be honest, as to what we could end up on. Be right in the danger zone. There is
18
Arthur
laps
Chan.
into the stint for Arthur Chan, so at most 3 or 4 laps till he needs to make stop number 3.
He's not entirely sure. Yeah, there we go. Finally lifts off on the inside, but A good view of what's in front,
lights.
for Arthur Chan.
So just to the left of the dash, there's a series of yellow and purple lights, and they tell you the front and the rear axle, what the ABS is doing, how hard you're pushing it. And I believe the best way to do it is to see one light. It means the ABS is doing a little bit, but you're still within the limit of grip and maximising it.
I must say, I've been trying to work out all day whether Arthur Chan's view is actually out of a window or whether that's a picture in front of him. Can't really tell, but anyway. Bryce Rodriguez moves up to 14th place in the number 1, getting ahead of Chad Henson. Both of those making it to the end of the race, surely, on fuel. And Rodriguez actually does have quite a lot of places he can gain here, but I'm afraid it's going to be very difficult for him to gain enough to keep from Thomas Briggs from getting 2nd place in this championship this season.
Rodriguez ahead of him has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drivers with less fuel than he took. Now, there's a few of them that are sort of maybe stopped 2 laps earlier than him, might be able to make it to the end, but they might have to back their pace off a little bit, I suspect. Hopefully in those 51 seconds of the stop, Rodriguez got plenty of fuel on board.
Well, yeah. Still trying to work out what that could be. As you say, not enough for a penalty, speeding, and it didn't look like he was speeding either. I'm wondering whether they took tyres at the beginning of the stop, but whether he accidentally clicked tyres again and they did tyres again, but that wouldn't really make sense. Especially because they did tyres earlier in the stop anyway. So,
the only answer is you get to the end of the fuel fill and then realise you didn't take tyres, but you're going to need them, or you got the wrong tyres on. I don't know if it'll even let you throw wets on even mistakenly in conditions like this. But yeah, it's sort of this weird in-between of like, it's too long to be a normal stop, but it's too short to be a speeding penalty, and it just sits somewhere in between going, oh, that 20 seconds vanished into thin air.
Yeah, it did, rather. And it's a shame, really, for this race. Even if they weren't going to fight for the win with Mendonca, those 3, they would have had a fight amongst themselves. Briggs and Townend have already shown that they are very willing to do that. And as you pointed out, when they were actually fighting, maybe it was a case of, well, this is the last race, we're not going to get to Mendonca now, so let's just have a bit of fun with this, because there's 7 seconds behind to Julian Jones in the next group. And as I say, there's little chance of catching those up in front. Maybe that's what's going through their mind at the moment, but Bryce Rodriguez not to be a part of it, that is a real shame, really. He's now only up to 14th place, chasing Rodney Campbell and Chris Braun for 12th. You can see them on your screen fighting right now. Bryce Rodriguez homing interview in the background. But not only has it cost him a chance at a title, it's cost him 2nd place in the actual standings as well, as Thomas Briggs moves in front and Arthur Chan comes in to make his final stop of the season.
Did the tour at Daytona a couple of years back. They'll let you stand on the top step of the podium there, and I said no. Not today. Some other time though, maybe. Arthur Chan is going to get his stop on the way, but David Mendonca will be, presumably the way things are tracking, offered that opportunity to stand on that top step and graciously accept it, I assume. Just like they'll let you kiss the bricks on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Tour, and it's like, I don't think everyone should be allowed to kiss the bricks.
It does feel
I'll
wrong,
gatekeep
doesn't it?
that. Yeah.
That does, to be honest, I don't think I wouldn't have. I wouldn't
Like
have
if
thought
I paid
anything
for a
of.
tour of Buckingham Palace, would they let me put the crown on? I don't think so. That doesn't feel right.
No,
I haven't earned it.
Well, let's I don't know about earned it in the Buckingham Palace context, but let's leave that for another day, maybe. Yes, I don't know if I'd have said anything about standing on the top step of Daytona, but kissing the bricks does feel wrong, I must admit. But I suppose anyone could do it if they want to get dirty enough, I suppose.
13 laps to go, 12 laps into the stint for Mendonca. would put it to sort of a 25 lap stint, and I just don't think he's showing signs of fuel saving that are going to get him there. I think he's showing the signs of pushing on. He's past a 40-second lead now. His last lap, a minute 44.0. His best, and I believe the fastest lap of the race, a 43.6. So it's within just a couple of tenths of as fast as you could possibly ever go. That's what's up for Mendonca at the moment.
I mean, it's just been phenomenal. The way he's been able to extend the advantage over the rest of the field here. There was a big grand plan from those others, of course. Thomas Briggs, Blake Townend, and previously Bryce Rodriguez, who was a big part of that. I mean, Rodriguez clearly quick. He beat Mendonca by 300ths in qualifying. But the strategies diverged straight away, and what's become clear is that going as hard as he can, for as long as he can, for Mendonca has been the way to go in this race so far. It's been an absolute display from him. And Bryce Rodriguez is left trying to limit the damage from his very long pit stop. Chris Braun is now in the rearview mirror. Rodney Campbell is next up in line, and there are quite a few ducks in a row actually for him to knock down, and maybe a top 10 to rescue in these final 17 minutes.
A few of those drivers that did take their very late final stop and are able to push are going to be the exciting ones to watch, and also some of those on their three-stop strategy coming through, like Rodney Campbell there, just behind Serger and Zuhair battling.
And so that's the current one for 10th. I imagine Bryce Rodriguez will be infiltrating that pretty shortly.
I think Serger's going to need another stop. It had last the lap before Mendonca did.
Oh, yeah. I guess there are some others we can probably point out here. Robbie Prescott, Christopher Pies. Sorry, not Pies. Sylvester Canny. Yeah, maybe there are some more stops compared to what we were expecting, although Jones slips behind Prescott now. He's been going very slowly since they pitted. He can definitely make it to the end, but for some reason he's going pretty slowly out there. Stopped for way longer as well than Briggs and Townend. I must admit, some things that, and Serger indeed does come into pit lane, underline your point. Some things we've seen tonight, I must admit, well, a lot of things actually, I'm not really easily able to explain. There's a lot of strange stuff happening tonight.
Yeah, often you see behaviour and race aggressiveness that leads you to think someone's taking a particular strategy, and then the stop times don't necessarily line up, a few things like that. So what's the lap time here? Mendonca's going to cross the start-finish line. Last lap, 44.08. This lap, 44. That's not updating when I would expect it to.
44.2 it's showing to me. I mean, there's not many of us going quicker than that at this stage.
Very quickly, 15 laps into his stint. Most we expect him to go is about another 7, thinking that there's 10 laps left in this race. So that margin matters immensely for Mendonca, and what's looked like he had this race massively in hand might end up being only a 10 to 15 second win.
Only, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, he could have won it either way, but has gone flat out, and everyone from second back went fuel saving. And so it all comes together at the end and means that Mendonca was only 0.4 of a second per lap quicker than everyone.
I'll let this battle continue to play out on your screens, Sylvester Canny and Matthew Siddle, but you mentioned something very, very early on, which I think speaks to the only thing that could have stopped Mendonca from winning this race, really, because I agree that probably with either strategy he could have won, but the only caveat I'll bring to that is what you said very early on about that very large group that was fuel saving for second place at the time, and there was a brief gap, and you said they've got to close that gap and then think about fuel saving again. I just wonder whether if they'd have kept that gap closed, because it was to begin with, Mendonca didn't, well, of course, he didn't even qualify on pole. He had to get past Rodriguez initially, then stretch out this advantage. So he's been given an advantage effectively. He's been given that break of slipstream, which is so hard to earn round here at Daytona. I just wonder if they had their time again, the likes of Rodriguez and Briggs and Townend and the rest of them, whether they would prioritise keeping his slipstream over the, I mean, massive fuel saving that they were doing, especially early on.
In any sport, you know, your football, I've been watching a bunch of competitive Age of Empires lately, and this, in racing, whenever there's a player or a racer or a team who are a little bit better than you, and you know it, and they know it, you've just got to start the game making them think that it's closer than it is. And if that had gone with Mendonca for 5 laps in his slipstream at the start of the race, they'd have had him questioning, wait, am I actually going to win this race by going flat out on 3 stops? Or do I have to now begin to save and then use my superior pace later in the race after having made the savings? And they could have caught him sort of halfway between one or the other, put some pressure on him, and that's when the greats, even the greats and the best, and those that you know have an edge on you, can make a mistake. And you drag them down to the mess and the muck and the mire of your level.
Yes.
If you can get an early goal against a top-of-the-table team, then suddenly they're thinking, hang on, how do they adjust their strategy? Do they deviate from their game plan? That's what they had an opportunity to do maybe in the first 3 to 5 laps and didn't. And Mendonca has laid down the law to the rest of them and played this on his terms.
Yeah, I mean, we're rather giving him the race win before he's got it, but, you know, I mean, look at the gap. It's 3/4 of a minute now over the rest after only an hour and 50. To be honest, the early moments I thought were showing that, well, this could be quite close between the two different strategies. As I say, Arthur Chan was giving me a bit of information before this race got underway and said that, you know, a number of different strategies could be top 10 contenders here today, and that has proved to be true, but I think the 3-stop strategy has very much been the weighted one here, as it were, and I do wonder how that affects the rest of the week. These days, the Pro Class goes first. We'll be live again tomorrow, RaceSpotTV, with the Club Class finale. Matthew Siddle gets past Sylvester Canny again, who's not giving up, and he's gone too deep there. Siddle will take 7th place very easily, or not, in fact. He'll be 3 wide, indeed. Oh, no! And contact with a lapped car involved there. Arthur Chan is going to get back in. Is that Ed Eisenring? Arthur Chan's going to catch back up again, so is Bryce Rodriguez. So this group is finally back together all again. After all that time being spread apart in the top 10, finally this group having a renaissance right at the finish here.
The real racing is the friends we made along the way, the packs we formed and the bump drafting we had. It's definitely getting darker out the window of Arthur Chan.
He's in the, oh, there you go, Canada West region. I was going to say, it's going to be quite a long way away for it to still be light this time. It's not far away from midnight on the East Coast. So
I'm with you, though. Those trees are not moving at all.
Yeah, and they look very close to the window. But, no, that is a window. Not a painting. Whatever.
Bounced every single curve in the Le Mans chicane. Previously the bus stop.
And previously a very different chicane. Not only in its name. Used to be very flat curves there and grass lining the, well, all of it. Now
yeah, there used to be a lot more grass before we paved Paradise and put up a parking lot.
It's a bit of a shame, isn't it, really? I know it's done for the oval racing, but I just feel like it's taken something away from the road racing course. There's Bryce Rodriguez closes on Arthur Chan here, and he's forced to the outside. Chan saw that coming from a mile away. Pulls it over to the inside for the International Horseshoe. Stays in front. Chan has made his final pit stop already. Siddall in front, and Canny pitted earlier than Rodriguez did by some margin. So do wonder whether they are going to have to come in again before this race is finished, and whether it will be Chan and Rodriguez, and maybe some others, have to fight for 7th.
Air temps come up just a tiny bit. The track temps also come up a bit since the start of the race. So now 83 degrees Fahrenheit on the track and 28 degrees Celsius, but not a hint of rain. Beautiful blue skies. A perfect day to be on that Ferris wheel. Also, as that track temperature comes up, just slows up the lap times a little bit. So 43.9 from Mendonca on a previous lap. It looks absolutely spectacular. So lots of car parking. Lake Lloyd, the big lake, formed when they dug up the earth to build the banking of the speedway. Daytona Beach Airport is sort of just underneath us. The iRacing blimp is up there.
Looking fantastic as always.
And Outback Steakhouse is on the road that accesses the airport terminal.
Any good?
It's so funny being an Australian and going into an Outback Steakhouse in the US, because it's just like, I am your king. Yes, I have arrived.
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. They don't often try and do that with British food, which is, I think, is a bit of a shame.
There's a British fish and chip shop near my house, and they have lots of flags and snacks and beverages from your nation.
That's very unusual. We don't have very many flags in this nation. Anyway, I guess it adds to the theme. 7 minutes to go for Mendonca. I know I keep saying it, but I can't remember the last time I saw a Pro Class PCA race dominated like this. In terms of the... I mean, if you took a time gap between first and second every minute, I don't know what the aggregate would be by now. It could be hours. It'd be a very, very long way. Or every lap even, take the aggregate time gap. I mean, he's just led by such a long way for so long. And he's just bringing it home now. The only thing he's got left to do, really, is to not accidentally take tyres at this final pit stop. Don't run out of fuel by forget to coming in pit lane. None of that silly stuff, because as far as getting this stop over and done with before the others get to him, I'm not sure he's got any contest.
Don't have a Bryce Rodriguez length stop, I think, is also a consideration. So we just had Prescott stop after, I think, 21 laps. It's 20 in now for Mendonca.
Because of such a long stop, by the way, for Rodriguez, it wouldn't even if Mendonca did do that, it wouldn't lose him the championship. Thomas Briggs would need him to be outside the top 5.
Choo Choo, Rodriguez leading Carney, Siddall, Chan, Zuhair, and Campbell.
Yeah, there must be a lap car in there as well.
Well, yeah, maybe. And Carney needs to make another stop, I think.
Yeah, I thought so. Same last stop as David Mendonca, so you'd imagine there will be another stop, although Mendonca hasn't made it yet either. Rodriguez comes through the bus stop chicane.
Pattern, this will be the in-lap for David Mendonca if he follows the pattern of his first 2 stints. Okay. And then that'll give him a splash with 3 laps to go. That's crabbing.
That is crabbing badly. Looks like Enrico Gregorato to me. That very bright green. It is indeed. He's already used his fast repair, so this will be the end of his season, unfortunately, and he's ended it in the wall. He'll finish 25th tonight. He won't slip down any further than that. There's nobody else running behind him now. But he's just driving this one back to pit lane. Unfortunately, his last action of Series 15 is going to be with a very, very poorly race car.
The apron's forward to catch some of the spills. But for Gregorато, oh man, the rear's locked up way before he goes into the Le Mans chicane, unfortunately.
That's what Kudrowski did earlier. Retired after his crash, and Gregorато probably going to be as good as retired after his. Arthur Chan slipped down as well there, by the way, on the last lap. As David Mendonca does now come into the pit lane. That means it's only going to be 2 laps to go, so a very short stop incoming, and surely a race lead by some seconds as well for David Mendonca.
Yeah, I wonder if actually this stop for Mendonca adjusts the predicted laps from 70 down to 69. Geez, yeah, that's like, put 2 laps of fuel into it, please, and away I go.
Look at the gap he's still got. So, yeah, it would have been about 30 seconds, I suppose, the time lost, just less than. Well, he had much, much more than that.
It's 25 is the loss, because he was up to a 45-second lead.
Yeah.
Now as he blends up to speed, it's 19 seconds clear. So maybe more like a 26-second loss. The flag of Canada.
Yeah, so Mendonca leads by a very long way and is surely on his way to a title. Sylvester Canny is coming in. I was just beginning to wonder there, as he looked like he was going to stay on the racetrack to defend from Matthew Siddle and Saji Zuhair, but not to be. And he will not get a top 10 to round off this season. That final spot inside the top 10, by the way, is going to go to Chris Braun, by the looks of things, who's going to get the last spot, potentially, or one of the last spots inside the top 10 in this championship. He'll be a Super Pro in Series 16, should that classification return for next season. Only 3 new names inside the top 10 compared to last season. Leif Peterson, Enrico Gregorato and Kerry Brooks, the ones to not return. Gregorato and Brooks have not been here for very many rounds, so that's why they're both outside top 13 points. Leif Peterson has had a pretty miserable season and got his second top 10 only 2 weeks ago, which just shows you what a season it's been. But there are the final standings as it stands. Mendonca going to take it, as we know, but Rodriguez and Briggs are tied on points at the moment. It's giving it to Rodriguez on countback there due to that screen, but I don't know, I'm going to have to do a bit of calculation. I think it will be Rodriguez on countback, but they're tied on points, and there's not much Thomas Briggs can really do about that. Here, meantime, what happened to Arthur Chan.
Oh, curb number 4 kicks him airborne into a slide and spins him around at massive speed. So it was all under control through the chicane until that very, very final hop. And so based on those live points, every position that Bryce Rodriguez can get breaks the tie, doesn't it? And he's in behind Christopher Pires and closed down a couple of tenths. That's one to watch in his final couple of laps. Did Mendonca get the white flag?
I think so.
You'd imagine so, but I didn't get confirmation on it.
Yeah, you would imagine so. Yeah, maybe it would go to Briggs actually on catback. So yeah, Rodriguez might need that place, and Christopher Pires is the one who's got it inside the top 5. Anyway, we know who the champion's going to be, and it's going to be David Mendonca. He wasn't a contender last season. He's in fact never been a contender in this championship before, but he has gotten off to such a great start. He challenged Rodriguez on the opening race of the season, the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, and with hindsight, we should have known then that this was going to be a season to watch between those two. He's won at Sebring, Road Atlanta, and now Daytona as well, and he is going to be the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series 15 champion here in the Pro class. David Mendonca with a display of dominance like never seen before at this venue. In this series, 17 seconds the gap at the line, despite making an extra pit stop compared to the rest. He flashes his lights furiously as he crosses the line, and provisionally he is the Series 15 champion.
Second fastest car on track last lap was Bryce Rodriguez in his pursuit of getting second in those standings, but doesn't have it just yet. Thomas Briggs with the great livery, great mustache. Rodriguez is up into 5th.
Oh, he just get there, just about, and there go the points changing. It will go 10 points in favour of Rodriguez. He only gets a top 5 in the end, and he'll be bitterly disappointed. He really teared through the field there towards the end, and he would have been much closer to Mendonca than Briggs was if you eliminate his extra pit stop time, although that's not, of course, not exactly how it works. Oh dear, as Briggs now hits the wall, and needs to be careful with that. There are people still racing, yeah, Mendonca in just a moment will be able to enjoy some donuts, some very well-deserved donuts as well. 120 points his eventual championship winning margin, but as I say, just in terms of in isolation, this race has just been an extraordinary performance.
He knows where the traction control disengage switch is. David Mendonca didn't do any fuel saving during the race. Doesn't need to do any after the checkered flag.
That's what all the 5 seconds in the pit lane was all about. Needs some fuel for the donuts as well as to make it to the end. He had more than enough time. In fact, he had time to put in nearly a half tank, but in the end, he takes the victory, and we'll chat to him in just a moment. Winning by nearly 17 seconds and taking the title. Thomas Briggs ends up second and will be third, I think, provisionally in the championship as well. Blake Townend joins them on the podium. Julian Jones and Bryce Rodriguez rounding out the top 5. Rodriguez only just getting past Christopher Pies there. Matthew Siddle, Sazi Zuhair, Rodney Campbell and Chris Braun rounding off the top 10. It was Offa Chan next with his late spin with Robbie Prescott, Chad Henson, the last drivers within a minute of the win. Sylvester Canny with his late stop 14th ahead of Andrew Serger. Peter Mollett drops to 16th in the end after running early on at the front. Jason Ryan, Thomas Isabel and Christopher Cook all on the lead lap. Leif Peterson 1 lap down in 20th place. James Hoof also a lap down with Michael Patterson, John Gibson, Ed Eisenring as well. Enrico Gregorato crashed at the end there to finish 2 laps down. And the non-finishers, Justin Sang, Mark Kudrowski, Justin Tipton and Julian Velez, who didn't get out for very long at all early in tonight's race. Let's chat to the champion, shall we, and the race winner tonight from Daytona, David Mendonca. David, welcome in. Congratulations on not only the victory in isolation tonight, but of course the provisional championship as well. I've very rarely seen a performance quite as dominant as that. Were you expecting a closer challenge, at least in terms of a race result? Were you expecting a closer race today?
Well, first off, I gotta say happy birthday to my youngest son. He turned 16 today, and he postponed his birthday dinner for me to do this race. So happy birthday, Drew. But yeah, as far as strategy, I just had a plan to push for 3 laps and see what happens. If I couldn't drop anybody, I was just gonna fuel save and fall back and go for a 2-stopper. But if I could break draft, I kind of thought I might have the pace to run away with it. So that's what I tried to do. As soon as I broke draft, I just put my head down and try to go for the 3-stopper.
And it worked out to a great degree in the end as well, with a 17-second win, despite everything obviously that went on behind as well. But I want to just, before we let you go and celebrate the victory, just talk a little bit about the season as a whole, because perhaps more so than drivers, we look into the results and where it was really won and lost. Where would you say this season was won and lost for yourself? You've won the last 2 races in a row. And you know, for example, Rodriguez 2 weeks ago had that bad race at Road Atlanta. What were the keys for you, would you say, sitting in the car there this season?
I mean, for me, it was just consistency. If you take away my mess up at Phillip Island there, which was a 0, I just tried to. I didn't force a win. I just try to be like a top 3 the whole time. The problem was with that 0 at Phillip Island, I was always just on the cusp of having a bad round and being knocked out of the championship. So I just really played it safe, and I think that's what made the difference.
Well, congratulations, as you say, not lower than 4th other than that Phillip Island race. So congratulations on that consistency that has taken you to a championship provisionally here this season, David. Thanks for chatting to us throughout the season as well, and enjoy celebrating the victory tonight.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for the broadcast. A quick shout out to Sopek, Abruzzi, and Cosworth for all the support and the help with the setups. And congratulations to all the other winners. And ready for next season. See you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, David Mendonca, the winner tonight from Daytona, and our champion as well in the pro class. Third place in the championship and second place in the race tonight is Thomas Briggs, who can join us now as well. Thomas, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Second place in the end by 17 seconds the margin. We're just chatting to David Mendonca there, who said that he might have, or he wanted to push on there early to see if he could drop the rest of you, and he did. So at that point, he decided to go for the 3-stop. The reason I bring that up is because I felt that you initially had thought you did want to do the 3-stop, and then you reverted to the 2. Would that be accurate? How was the strategy changing throughout the day?
I'm going to be honest with you. I had no idea what strategy I was going to do. I thought about jumping ahead of Bryce there and just trailing off of David there, which is what I should have done. I thought Bryce was going way too conservative with it. Not to mention it was really boring. But yeah, it was a good race. I had a lot of fun. I think I almost got the Super Pro. Hey, can we mute that? Sorry. But I mean, we had a lot of fun. It's been a really good season. There's a lot of people to thank. Everybody in this room to thank. And all the sponsors, the Shopaholics race team. Every single one of those sponsors on the race car today is, I couldn't have done it without them. Chris Rose, Hemp Motorsports, Gutter Financial, MOHR partner, every one of them. And it's been a long, difficult season, but next time I'm coming for David and I'm coming for Bryce. So yeah.
Yeah, and just to touch on that season, just last of all, 2 race victories for you, but not just a few points too few, I guess, to win the title. Where was the key moments for you in terms of them getting ahead of you just by enough to get ahead of you in the points this season?
If I don't look at things that happened in the past, I think I got lucky with Bryce having his problems. I don't know what happened with him in the pits. And then he just got the position at the end, which it's kind of bad luck, which is not how you want to. You don't want it to lose it, but I'm not gonna look back at my season and say I could have done, if this hadn't happened, because that's not gonna help. But we're just gonna enjoy it. We're all gonna celebrate. It's still a trophy in the end. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on second tonight and third in the championship, Thomas. Thanks for chatting to us throughout the season, of course, and hopefully we'll see you next season.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thomas Briggs, second place tonight from Daytona, in front of Blake Townend, who we can chat to now as well. Blake, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Third place for you in the end in that race. Is that the maximum you felt you could get out of it tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the maximum, just with the strategy. Just I wasn't sure if I was going to run out of fuel towards the end, so that was a short-lived battle with Thomas Briggs. But hopefully it brought some excitement to the race. I think the race itself was pretty dull for the most part. And obviously, congratulations to David on winning the overall class, I believe. And Bryce for winning the Super Pro. Thomas Briggs as well did a great job all season, so it was fun. Unfortunately, my lap 1 DNF at Suzuka didn't help, and then I had to attend a funeral, so I had to miss Road Atlanta. But all in all, it was a good season.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that battle with Thomas Briggs just briefly at the end there as well. At the time, I thought there might be a fleeting chance, a small chance, that you might be able to bring David back into it and fight for the win if you two would work together there, but that turned out to be complete rubbish, obviously, at the end, as David came out miles in front anyway. But at what point did you realise that you were fighting for second and the race win was completely gone? How early was that in your mind?
It was probably halfway through the second stint. when I realized that David had just pulled such a big gap, that I think it was like 48 seconds or so, that it was just impossible to catch him.
Well, it's still a podium for you to end off the season, Blake, and a strong season at that, with 4th place in the points. Congratulations on all of that, and thanks for chatting to us as well at the end tonight.
Yeah, and thank you to SimShop, White Gooden, for all the support and the equipment. It's greatly appreciated. And to all my clients that I serve in PCA, thank you also for your support as well.
Thanks very much. Blake Town in 3rd place here tonight from Daytona in our last round of the Pro Class this season. As I say, just of the Pro Class, because we still have 3 more 2-hour finales to come from Daytona here on RaceSpotTV from the Porsche Club America Sim Racing Series 15. Tomorrow is going to be the Club Class finale. We'll be live same time, same place with that just after 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Next week, the Sport and the Challenge Class reach their finale. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside David Haynes in the commentary box, with Ramiro Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras of this broadcast here tonight. It's David Mendonca, who is the Pro Class champion for Series 15 after a brilliant win from Daytona. Join us again tomorrow to see who will confirm themselves as the Club Class champion. From all of us, though, until then, it's goodbye for now.
Some trips are felt beyond words. No one connects you to the Pacific Coast like Princess. Princess Cruises. Book now.